That's reasonable.
You know what? I'm just going to do this 5 to 1 thing.
Yeah.
So we do numbers. So we do numbers.
Numbers is if you want to do the 1 to 5 scale, and ice if you want to do the numbers.
But still, I have 5 numbers to distribute.
So we write the most correlated.
If you do ice, I don't know.
So the ice were actually, because it would all be in one column. Now that we're using individual columns, we can use numbers so that we can actually count all of them.
Well, I mean, we could use the 1 to 5, and then everyone votes on every single row, and then we sum the total at the bottom.
Totally.
Yeah,
let's do this.
So that's not allocating 5, but it's using the scale of 1 to 5.
Yeah, and 5 is being pull the plug, and
no, one is pull the plug.
Okay,
one is pull the plug. 5 is we can do it in 5 years.
I see. And if you think it's 5,
no, let's make it 5 pull the plug, and 1 is 9.
Oh my god.
Otherwise,
no, because otherwise you're gonna have to take this someone at the end. I don't know why you do that.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So okay. So,
5 is pull the plug.
5 is pull the plug. Vote on every row. Okay. Well, I mean, you don't have to. If you don't care, maybe then it's like it's a null.
If you don't care about, there's just custom builds. You don't have.
So I need my own column.
Yes.
Yes.
Rachel's column.
Why? I was still red.
So 1.
I'm going to try and change the format.
3, 4, 1.
So change my number.
Just vote on 5 of them, or
All of them. Did you vote on all of them and you classified it? Actually, it's not vote, it's classified. So for each of the rows, you classify, is this a 5, pull the plug? Is it a 1? We can do it later. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we're all good?
so 5 is 5? Okay. Change the rules again,
No.
please.
No, I think it's.
So 5 is the highest? And
Yeah, 5 is pull the plug, 1 is benign. Do your best to vote for
escape from pineapple to monkey.
Yeah.
What is.
Can we write it down?
Is this L?
I don't. Undesirable use of chat. This really bothers me actually.
Why? Because it's not.
Because we shouldn't be making a social call on how the technology is used.
Yeah.
Like we just providing the tool.
So you could do -1.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4.
No.
Oh, 0. We multiply that.
Yeah, we multiply.
The series.
Why is there only 9 columns?
Because people have to.
Yeah. So you don't have a column.
Bring your own name.
I don't have my column yet. No.
I'm trying to understand.
Outrageous.
Yeah, I don't fully understand something, but.
Ooh.
-999. Okay.
If we turn on brightness.
Yeah.
It's actually tilting the camera has helped out with the lighting issue a bit.
Let's go. What? Jag tror det är nog på den som
Do you mind if I switch places with you? Actually, we missed it last year. Might have switched places. I don't want to unplug it because.
Maybe you can open that. Yay!
Oh wait, one is not important.
Right.
You can have another column and you vote for you vote on it.
Yeah.
5 is 5 minus an absolute value.
Oh, this is good. They're kind of poisoning things. They're helping it.
Minus 99, minus 999 monkey brain.
What if that's like a magic number? Easter egg. Monkey number. Monkey words. I think monkey wrench is an Easter egg in the food focus. Here another food song. Category? Oh, it's just an average. Oh, something.
Is this someone's column next to yours?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know who's typing.
Who's typing next to Pedro?
Oh, me.
Oh,
Why?
No name.
there's no name.
Oh, sorry. There we
That's
go.
actually good. That's actually good.
Yeah, everyone should be anonymous. Have their own column.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Then you said you
Yeah. See.
Some of these are perfect forward secrecy first 2 points.
Who is insane? Because there is sanity check average and you're the only one with an insane number.
Sounds about right. Sir. Good points.
Do you know what this one is?
I don't know what self-host means. I mean, it's like required code signing for any submits in GitHub.
Oh, okay.
Patrick, you know?
Sorry?
In
Glasses?
the dishwasher.
They're in the dishwasher, yeah.
Versus self-host.
I don't know what self-host
Once
means.
again.
Like, we don't self-host.
I want one.
Oh, like status self-hosting.
You need this.
Yeah.
Like having our own repository. Yeah.
Adam, I want to show you something. I don't know if you finished.
Yeah.
I was just
Studio set.
discussing with the chat. He was asking me about the one talking to you because yeah, it was talking
Is it asking you something or like how do you get bit magicians?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not too involved in it.
service. Yeah. I ran a bunch of like text summarizes on it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was sending you a bunch of the questions. So
Wait, what?
It's like, I mean, like oh yeah, I just run a bunch of different summarizes, so I didn't have to read everybody's responses. So I'm pretty cool to go through it before the 9th. It kind of goes through all these things.
Wait, is this different from the analysis that was done?
So Mummy did some topic modeling, which is fine, but it's like it doesn't really extract much useful information. Like you couldn't create anything from that.
So what do you need?
It's just some different summarizes, like LSA, text rank, and like they're all designed to like take articles and compress them into a couple of sentences.
Right.
Yeah. So like text rank is
But is it weird the results?
Oh, totally.
You're gonna have
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so I mean, like basically what they do is they basically say text rank does page rank of the key phrases, and then it like finds the sentences that are most closely match that, and then it graphs it. So it's somewhat inherent. It's not like
I think so. The point of doing this audit in September.
obviously. So you take this, and then like you kind of know the context around some of the key phrases, which are like and I also done a bunch of different ones on that. And then I'll like, rewrite it terms and have everybody review that against the original data set and against the
Seems like we should all have a discussion.
So like this one's like pushing the clearing body and these like value particles that
if you try comparing it to Amazon, I know you pay.
I just people to read and stuff. I know Amazon's I've never had success with it. Every time I've done it, like people just fill out random stuff, like unless you have like a really good verification on paying them out, they just do like they don't care, they'll put any value in it. So
Which seems like what
and unless you don't, it's not really useful for unless you're a task.
doesn't need to be called 1.0. It's just
verify
we
it.
want to put it in the app store.
So if you, for example, you like that, just choose the next line. But if yes and answer, it can work for everyone. If the answer is that it's not,
You need to train the humans. Yeah.
Because I mean, it makes perfect sense. They're optimizing just because they're measly few cents or whatever. So they just want to.
but do you spend time to do that? Would like people get to the word on the website? It's very different in the direction. Just next. But this is just being
But you have this fact-checking website that are doing this kind of stuff for free. They take scientific or political discourse, YouTube videos, and then they cut it into sentences, and then they people source every thing, and then rate each well, some of them I don't understand the rules, like the political stuff, it's a bit weird. So you decide it's true or false.
About the refactoring.
What? Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do that.
Alright. Question, do you remember what our essences were?
Your words.
So we need to set up
That was a combination of Mystery Man,
Okay.
Jordy Bellino,
Okay.
and me looking over.
Yeah, it's just also like.
Oh, you left,
Also,
right?
it's
Yeah.
Okay.
You can cut it.
this week, and now it's.
And he's like, I like
Okay.
it. No idea who it was.
But yeah, I agree that.
It's a good time.
How did you get involved? How did you become
He was first.
so much influx
Uh,
into change.
He wanted to put a large amount of money in, and
So
he
to
wanted
say,
to
okay,
code
we
it,
need to do
also code it at the same time to show that like it's fine.
Yeah.
But like we didn't like it was really interesting, right? Because it's exactly what this stuff embodies. Is that you don't know or trust your counterparty. It's not like you only work on the merits of what they produce. So like I'm just sitting there pouring through every one of these pull requests And he's getting like really,
We have
sometimes those things very pushy because he wants to just get the code in there and working. And I'm like, sit down there, son. How do we read these things? Nifties. And yeah, this game. That's the one, yeah.
I don't know what's the also.
So he uses Arch and he has comment. There's in his .content files.
What's the game?
I mean, I can identify because like, I can narrow it down. So, sorry. Oh, because if you come back, it's no longer.
But yeah,
it's
currently more people.
So this summarizing stuff makes you save your time yet, or it's fun?
I haven't looked at it at all.
Oh,
yeah, but I see a lot of people saying,
so, I mean, yes, because like I mean, you can say how many sentences you want each algorithm to generate. So I got like 4, and that's a lot. It's already a lot smaller in terms of file size as opposed to the responses that you've got.
Yeah, but it's like a compression algorithm for actual text. It's a bit weird.
Oh, it's totally weird. But you're identifying key phrases, right? So you're trying to find generalizations. So even if you're trying to distill a document out of all of those responses, you do have to do some kind of form of compression. And this, it would be less subjective than me.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was thinking about the stable one.
You know what you call subjectives that might be experienced your intuition, you're able to remove entire part of the document and you focus on what is actually
for me, exactly. But that's the clincher there. Like it's through my own lens, and I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
That's also not okay.
Yeah, but considering the writer is not objectively very
right. I mean, you're taking generalizations of 300. So that you're not trying to find. It's like we can subjectively
process the
unstructured text from the
okay, it's
set values. So it is subjective.
No, it's not really
Sorry. Yeah, I was looking for the power. Because you were using one, and then there's another one. Oh, I thought there was another one though. Like I thought I set up one. I'm just not seeing it. Yeah, there it is.
yeah.
I usually read like I'll see that.
Yeah, sometimes I read 3 times the same sentence because I realize my mind went.
Yeah. Because it's better to select how much you read.
Yes.
Yeah,
for that you have the Stallman method. You know the Stallman method. How he browses the internet. It's like so he doesn't use a web browser, so he emails himself the website he wants to read. So it's like he reads something and then maybe there is hyperlink that he wants to follow. So he sends the request to the server and he receives it by mail the stuff. So that way you don't have this impulse reading
by the letter.
No, by email.
Oh, I thought it had like an API that like literally posts something to him, so he gets like a.
You want to mail tomorrow?
It's not a newspaper. It's spam.
He might be crazy, but it's not insane.
But definitely.
I can see some value in that, right? You can use
better
better
angle.
material. For the staff, I had a system where I used probably better and sort of pilot them and had to pilot stuff there.
What? Continue.
But it's not it doesn't take space, it's also wasted.
No.
Who edit colors?
I don't see anyone editing anymore.
Can you reverse the colors? Because actually what's red is super important and green is no.
No.
No. Yeah, I mean, what's red is should be super important.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
yeah. Green is kind of like, let it go.
It's fine. Everything on fire.
No,
No, don't tell us you did.
Oh, yeah, 5 is close to 5.
Yeah.
So high numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
so high numbers should be
Oh, those are only about false. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
Can we order
is that
them as
right?
well?
Lower numbers.
Yeah,
Because
Duplicate this one.
No, it actually said 5 is full of 5.
oh shit. All
You
right.
can-
Sorry, I'll go back to it. Yeah. Okay. I was setting up the camera.
Use
Yeah.
them in the-
Yeah. No, this stuff is important. Good.
So the one that's out here, weak certificate checks, no pinning. Anyone elaborate on?
Can we order?
Sounds bad.
Yeah, essentially we have two places where we either call third-party APIs or we load DPS at different places. And in both of these places, we kind of use DPS, but we never check that the certificate is actually the certificate we expect to be. So in the apps, it's even worse because we don't have any warning whatsoever. And in calling the APIs, we don't. I mean, we have hard-coded URLs from where we call some APIs, but we don't have a hard-coded like certificate fingerprint that we expect to have. Because then, if let's say I will manage to get a certificate from a real certificate authority, that will be a totally valid certificate, and put it in the middle, which is a bit hard, but it's still possible. Then we'll still have a valid certificate, and we'll have no way whatsoever to figure out that somebody is in the middle.
So if you're running an internet cafe and you switch the DNS to some other,
it's a bit harder because then it's kind of you still have to have the same domain name, but you still can. There are techniques that allow you to still like issue a certificate from, let's say, I don't know, impure.io, which is not their certificate. And if for instance, there was kind of recent one of the guys who actually issued the certificate, there was a private key. It was exposed. So with this private key, you can generate certificate on their name, and they were in the root certificate of every like Android device and iOS device. And the point is that then I can generate like a valid certificate for impure.io from this certificate, and it will be accepted like everywhere. To avoid that, like there is this certificate thing here when you not only expect a valid certificate, but you expect a valid certificate with a specific fingerprint.
Well, there's DNS crypt as well. I mean, this is related to the single points of failure, right? Like we're connecting to centralized servers, and then we're not following the best practice. Like, so we're trusting the setup instead of like not having to trust it in a decentralized way. And then if we are trusting it, and we are using this, then we're not doing it correctly. We're not following the best practices. And that's the problem.
I mean, Google goes as far as that their like Chrome doesn't trust any certificate authorities that are trusted on the system. They have their own certificate authorities and their own whitelists and stuff like that. Yeah. So they don't trust like your system at all. So
yeah, and we should do the same.
Is there any way you're managing this now? Like, are you manually certifying?
No, we're just checking that there is a certificate and it's valid and nothing.
Yeah.
I hope that we do this. I mean, we haven't seen this.
And we trigger a warning.
Yeah, and do we have a warning in the app browser?
No,
we
don't. I don't think we have any.
Yeah,
There's yeah, it's not actually accurate for the browser, but there's also like I've loaded phishing sites that have valid certificates to meet status. So
yeah, I mean, it's only like the problem with this sort of stuff is it's just an extra hurdle for like an attacker to do. But I mean, it's not really a deal breaker. It's like regulation, you know, you just kind of push it to a different place. And you can get a free valid certificate online anyway. So.
What about the concept of, at least for DApps, having blacklist or whitelist?
So I think this is really related to like ENS because they basically want to do dispute resolution, but like the idea was essentially to create like a second layer on top of ENS, which is something like Google Safe Browsing. And I think until that gets implemented, then we just implement that kind of thing, because that would be like a secondary layer that handles that sort of stuff.
There's also this piece of Mozilla Web of Trust. It's a community project that they try to rate sites and show which kind of they have like value from zero to kind of something about how likely this web page will hurt you.
Right.
And then
so we don't get too deep in one thing. Like how should we structure this? Can we ignore them and look at the top one?
Are we all finished voting in the correct order where 5 is pull the plug and 1 is benign? Everyone's okay with that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So I think we just go through the top ones and then we discuss
Yeah.
So we just have a so we can sort them, we can order them.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So in the meantime, the next one up requires some kudos to what the kudos work.
But let's
sort them
first.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that. Probably gonna be there.
This is going to take me more time. So.
What? I think it's that Z to A thing.
Can you highlight the column and do it?
That's fine. Okay. You can do the reverse if you just say or
Theories first.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Sanity coverage.
So if, for example, we could discuss these first 5 items, is there then anything that, does anyone feel like, oh no, but we should actually include something else in the 10 of the
top 10. Or no?
No, I think everything is
I mean, all of these are worth discussing. That's the problem.
Well,
Are we still breaking into groups to go bottom up and top down?
We will be doing that.
Yeah, but
I think we know
more
this.
stuff like that.
which DNS is hijacking or spoofing of DNS talking about? Hijacking or spoofing of DNS? Is it for within the app or for our website?
I think it's related to this.
So it's not for our website, it's for the app.
I think it's for
So
why do you?
it's going to merge.
It's interesting that no perfect forward secrecy is so low. What is it? It's
Because we should do after the application of perfect.
It's also
it sounds like this. Yeah.
I think it's because first there's also the double ratchet.
Yeah, but it's not that far away.
Yeah,
I think the no votes counts as 0 as well.
And
Yeah,
also,
I didn't vote on that one.
So I think that's so all the no votes should be free to average
Let's
things.
fix that.
So I think it's a formula for that. I think
Yeah,
you does anyone know that? Anyone that it's helpful? Like default value, you set it to free, so the average is
I agree with
Yeah.
this.
Can you do? Does anyone know how to do it?
What did you say?
Like right now it's nothing and nothing defaults to 0, but you can change the default to be free, and then the average is better, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
you
agree.
Oh, it's even worse now. It's
yeah, but then
24.
Really?
I
I know it's not on that row. I'm doing
I think
this.
so.
I would think it
Oh wait, I don't know, but how does it? I'm not sure how.
yeah, but then I agree.
How are you?
Wait.
How's average defined?
Yeah, average is 0 would be weighing it down.
Maybe something we
Which
can
is
take it, right? So wait, 5.
Okay, fix it. How does it look now?
Yeah, that's fine.
3.7 now.
Because you're super including the ones not answered that are going to
We can also just fill in.
And not weighting them to 0.
So that's probably easiest.
And not weighting them to 0. Because 0 would throw it off.
But we're not weighing them.
Yeah.
If they don't know.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine. Yeah.
I think excluding might be more fair in this case.
But we should merge double ratchet and
Do people want to vote for the things that are empty, and if they don't feel something, they can just put a free?
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it should be done.
Yeah, if you're not sure, just put free.
Well, this should be done.
So it's 3.6 now, the no perfect for secrecy.
But let's wait. Yeah, let's
16
wait.
questions, write 16 numbers and multiply them.
Yes, so you want to vote for the ones that you haven't, and if you don't know, just put a free.
So I'm slightly uncomfortable with putting a 3 for something I really know zero about. So I better have it being excluded.
Okay.
But it's not being excluded.
Why
It
it's
is, right now it is. Right now it is. I changed it.
Okay.
Because you're using average.
Yeah, average A.
Yeah, average A, yeah.
Okay.
And this is reordered.
Is anyone editing their column? No?
You can always take the middle too.
So usually you need to have average because if you have like average, then like one huge value will heavily screw the average, but it won't screw.
We can put up a 9,000 here.
Yeah. Why would it not count?
Because it's an empty cell. It doesn't
Oh, no.
In the previous,
Right. Yeah.
in the previous
If you
alpha
put our name
calculation.
Yeah, of course. But if you have a mean, which means that you find
Sorry, yeah,
the value that's
what you're
in
saying.
between,
Mean there.
then it's
Yeah. Okay. That's much better.
that's how we actually when we do time sync for Whisper, we actually first we did the average, but average is so easy to dispute, so we pick the mean value out and we sort all the array and pick the middle value at the end. Which then, if you have like some one crazy server that shows a totally different type, it just ignores it. Doesn't really.
This doesn't actually happen, but you follow the same algorithm that he uses for calculating. They got a specific algorithm that gets it on the right one.
Yeah.
What did you update now?
Yeah, that looks much better.
I used to
try some more results.
Can you wait by something?
No, but it's more accurate as to what we should be.
The big factor.
Yeah.
It's really trying to shape up. I just like
Maybe not a small column, just called beer.
Alright, so then we have a new high-ranked item, source seed phrase in database without encryption.
That is very bad.
Yeah, that's
Like it's very bad.
filthy.
Are we not scrubbing that? I thought it was.
We until you back it up.
Yes. Oh, right. So before that.
It's kept plain text in the DB.
That's
Yeah, the
the
DB is encrypted, but it isn't encrypted with the password. So if we encrypt our private key with the password, it's probably should encrypt the same phrase with the password as well.
And this also helps the UX people in wanting to generate an account quickly that's not actually a real account. So then like the person doesn't need to set up an account until they're ready to do so. It allows us to do other user flows like that.
Yeah.
Although I technically don't know, like, I mean, it's better, but like, I mean, creating a fake password creates other problems as well. If that person starts using that account, regardless.
But isn't the simple solution to never store?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You just recreate an account, and I already mentioned that. I don't think
It should be
there's a
memory.
problem, even if you add context. I don't think it's a problem to sign a message that says, no, my new key is that so that you
just
have
need to force the user to say what they need to see first. This last time I say,
and if we upsell to a hardware wallet, which we do intend to do, then like it's even further mitigated.
Yeah, that's actually something else. Like, when do we have a timeline for the hardware wallet?
It's being audited right now. I mean, so there's two hardware wallets now. There's one that's a light version, which is the one that we were originally anticipating to do. But like really, you only have physical separation and security, and the like it's a trusted setup, like a one-time trusted setup. So like you pair it with your phone, and you can pair it with 5 other devices. But then it trusts that application. So like when you're signing up with status, you would tap on it. It would then do a pairing, and then it can only be used with status on that device. But you can obviously pair it.
Should we also support Trezor, for instance? Because they have quite
yeah,
library. Like
we certainly should support more wallets. I mean, it's just a matter of resources and bandwidth. And I think we have a whole bunch of other issues that we need to
yeah,
but yeah,
but
like
it
we
can
should.
be a bounty or something.
And then the pro version, the second, like the other one, is actually a full proper microcontroller. It has all LCD, has rechargeable battery, Bluetooth, so you can store iOS and stuff like that. Yeah, in a little credit card. It's crazy.
Can we park this as a separate topic?
Yeah. What do we want to do with this now? Like, how do we imagine what would be the most productive use of our time, considering we want to have 2 groups and stuff? Like, what?
Well, I mean, this is kind of like the first group, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's okay that we're all thinking about it. It's probably good to just go through these things and have a fun.
Should we Yeah, sure.
I would say we walk through 5 or 10, and then we break off. The question is more, how many do we want to discuss in breakout groups? Obviously, we would want to discuss all of them, but I think we can discuss all of them today and tomorrow. So we do need to select, based on this list, which ones are we going to address now, like the top 3, top 5, top 10, and which do we maybe discuss over a phone call or another time, because it is important that we have something concrete in terms of issues created and documentation out of this.
So I thought what we agreed on yesterday is like we have one group that's going to split apart right now and talk through some of these particular issues using the sheet. We have another group that's going to do principles as well. And so that's going to happen in parallel, and then we're going to share. Is 5 like if we nominate 5 topics that first group goes through?
I would suggest that we'll talk was scheduled for 11. Right? So we have basically an hour until then, and if we choose like the first 10, then we can summarize them in 5 minutes each, and then at least we're all on the same page in terms of what these things even mean and the problems with them.
So we walk through them now?
I think that's a good idea, yeah. And then a break, and then we go into looking forward secrecy. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We do the principal discussion.
And we can do the principal discussion.
Okay.
The second one we did talk about, the certificate then requires who have to work.
Yeah, this is like a single point of failure thing. This is also completely against what was our original promise and the reason why we're doing it in status at all in the first place. And this is basically using connecting to the blockchain via centralized server is what this is. My understanding is that we do mitigate this somewhat by allowing the user to define their own JSON RPC server so they can set up their own centralized server. But the reality is we should be using something like LES, like what's called the light client protocol, to synchronize with the network, or ULC, which is ultralight clients. And this is a bit more of a trusted setup, but it's still within the peer-to-peer network, and we can change how we can add more decentralized logic to how we choose which people to trust. So. Is that an accurate summary of that? Is that clear? Why it's a bad thing?
Yeah. So it sounds like there are alternatives.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Except there are technically they are a little bit not there, right? So we have trouble with discovery in LES.
Yeah.
Like each lot of CPU and all of that.
Exactly.
Specifically with discovery, and then I guess it's not.
I don't know where it is up in terms of implementation.
it's close, but it's not quite ready. It's also not audited, right? So that's why it probably makes sense to. Because we used to have less working, just there wasn't performant, but we didn't do enough work in terms of making performant. There's all this stuff we can do where you partially sync, you prove that you have synced up to a certain point, and you can also do things like only sync over Wi-Fi. And if you just have anything as an option, it would be like a huge gain. But we just haven't.
Yeah, that's the biggest. When I compiled it, the biggest thing was discovery. I know that we're looking into alternative discovery protocols.
Yeah. So on that note, I think IPFS has they don't fulfill requests in terms of discovery that the clients, but they do receive them. So like maintaining the Catenary network is a lot easier for them to do. But it sounds like Alan already solved this problem. So like, there's people solving this. I should also mention that like LES in a proof of stake system.
No problem.
Discovery, the way they're discovering that they're doing some interesting things to black markets.
Right,
yeah, so LES under a proof of stake won't be as CPU intensive because you don't have to do proof of work. And proof of work is like solving a lot of complicated, a Sudoku puzzle like computer thousands of times.
So actually, like Dimitri was running some networks of that, like at least like getting the errors from LES and extrapolating that, and it looks like it's less, it requires a fewer operation than the protein boosters.
Okay,
so
right.
It might not be actually a problem. The problem might be the initial sync when you receive a lot of these packages and you store them on the disk. Actually, there's a lot of blocks on the disk. And maybe that part is CPU intensive, but after you get to the point where you are almost synced, then it might be pretty good.
It's the whole F-hash DAG generations that's killer at the beginning, right? It requires so much CPU and memory.
That might be a problem. So that's, but I think that maybe there's a suggestion from Meetup, I guess, that maybe we can just do this when someone is on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
like charge on the phone,
alert that maybe you want to be on Wi-Fi for the initial signal later, that would be better.
Yeah, one thing about this is that it also has a lot of trouble to DX because it doesn't store some of the metadata that is necessary to like deploy smart contracts, for instance. There is no way in LES to figure out if that's a normal transaction or smart contract deployment. That's what.
But we can, it's also solvable, right? Like we can,
it is.
In Cisco, we can create our own indexes or entities, whatever. It's possible.
It feels like we're going into solutions.
We're on the next one.
Fully understand the problem. What would a single point of failure? Okay, what could possibly happen?
It's single point of failure is an essential thing, right? But then it's also like you're trusting. That's the main thing, right? You're trusting the central server. Then yes, you don't need a blockchain, right? I mean, it's not, as we use PHP in MySQL, you use Web 2.0. So the trust and the censorship, those are the main reasons.
And it's a third party, right?
Which is
it's not under our control.
Yeah, that's the trust. But that's also the mistake I think we can make is that we say, well, we can do this thing, but then we are the trusted third party. It's not just planting the problem, because from a use point of view, we are just a trusted third party, like trust our cluster thing. It's not solving the problem as well. So thinking of clusters.
Yeah, there's a cluster.
Might as well let Google do it then at that point.
Spamming the network.
Yeah. But
it's trivial right now to take down our, because it's one nice property in some P2P networks like Bitcoin, for example, is that the more stuff you have, the more people connected, the better the network gets, right? It gets more robust. Whereas for our case right now is we have a cluster and it has a limited amount of connections and it doesn't deal with like spam very well. So it's very easy right now for basic attacker to take down a cluster and it doesn't cost much at all.
So there's a couple of problems here. One, probably inherent in the protocol. Two, Whisper is not enabled by default by the greater Ethereum network. And three, I thought of something, but now Our mail server should be like, this is also including our mail server, what calls messages. So we need to be getting that out more. So we could be reaching out to people like that node to put our mail servers on those devices.
It's also not clear that the inherent sort of spam prevention mechanisms with Whisper is sort of right, like because it's.
We had to reduce that, right? Because it's for web-based, we had to reduce it for phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
ideally, you want to have a symmetry, right? Like you want it to be like, for example, in end-to-end encryption, you have this thing where it's very easy to sort of have encrypted communication. It's extremely expensive, mathematically speaking, it's asymmetrical, right? But for Whisper, that's not the case because you just need to generate something to work and then it amplifies throughout the network. So it's like a one-to-one. There's no asymmetry in a solution. So ideally, there would be some kind of monetary solution or whatever. But it's a hard problem to solve generally. But just starting to attack this problem and making it more expensive.
But also, you can use the Discover protocol. You can use on this one. You can go to Whisper and even if you bound the Whisper to some extent, like proof of work, it's not enough because there's other protocols over there.
So you can stand it.
I was thinking more like a Discover, so you can just run the packets to understand and allow your protocol starts to aggregate a lot of them. I don't know what's going to happen more. So that's another thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But also in this case, like to understand the problem spamming a network, what would happen?
Everything
we
stops.
can't use anything.
Yeah, censorship.
Going to a halt.
No chat.
It's a very cheap attack for censorship.
There's no transactions will chat is this one. So essentially the previous one was about wallet and transactions and DX, and the number 7 is about chat. So we don't use our own cluster for transactions.
No, because we rely on Emperor.
Yeah, that's number 6. Or number 6 was about transactions and wallets, and number 7 is about chat right now.
Yeah.
But in the future, of course,
They should be the same.
yeah, they should do this.
Okay, so now it would affect chats, but in the future it would affect everything.
Yeah, if we won't mitigate it, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Please do fix it better.
Yeah.
Mixed panel.
Just, I mean, mixed panel in general is very antithetical to what we're trying to achieve. So there's been a large discussion about this outside. Basically now we are trying to, I think the decision was to remove mixed panel for the next 3 months. We have Dustin, who's has a really interesting background in sort of machine learning analytics in terms of like full advertising. And my understanding is that he wants to be using the leaked metadata that we put out there on the blockchain to be able to try and achieve some of the same kinds of metrics. So for example, like identifying like new users that are using status, like you could say that new account holders in status on the blockchain. And it's arguably better because like the data is public already, and so it should be at least to technical people and knowing properly how the system works. There's obviously an education component to that for the people who are very new to technology. But it's also really interesting because then like if we're using metadata leakage, then we are also becoming very aware of how we're leaking metadata to track them, and so we should be also trying to mitigate that. And I would caution against that becoming like, oh, we can find these things and they depending on us.
So it's also an interesting opportunity because right now, if you come from a background where you use something like mixed panel or whatever, and you think it's like a good thing, it is in that context, but you can also think of it that way, which is the technology we're building and so on. Like if we can show how we're not relying on it, we can show how little we're leaking. Kind of like how Tor does and Spydroke and Zero Cache and so on. And we made like privacy metrics kind of thing, which is like, this is how little we know about you and you quantify it in certain ways. That's like a strength, right? Yeah, and we would be on the team that's that team as opposed to this sort of Google, Facebook team that's trying to get away with tracking the weird opposite. We say, here's what we know, and here's how little we know, and here's how we're trying to know even less about you. It's like a huge strength, right?
So every metric we can either or we get it, and
and exactly
if there is a way to get rid of it at some point, what we are doing
So it's really a strength. Like it might sound like we're getting rid of something, but it's really
it's actually much more aligned with our marketing messaging, or at least it should be. And also, like it forces us to think laterally. How do we start developing more deep and meaningful relationships with our users and our community in order to have more feedback on how these things. Maybe we can figure out ways to scale this sort of user testing that you're doing, where it's very well known that it's what we're trying to achieve, as opposed to kind of like being in the background, like looking in the shadows.
And there's no point in trying to build a very secure messenger where, on the other hand, we're leaking stuff to expand all of it.
And just in general, also, if I don't see any correlation between the apps on this my phone that are tracking everything and the apps that are good. So you don't really need everything to make a good application. Because a lot of things I use that come from a single developer who specifically want, okay, I don't want to collect anything about you, but you still can make a good application. It's not worse than something like Twitter does that tries to track everything.
Exactly, and I think that comes down to this sort of craftsmanship versus marketing-driven product development. Consumer insights are valuable, but at the same time, like if we are working to solve things that are problems for us, there are also problems for other people, and probably the people our market is interested in that. If you rely too much on consumer insights, I'm not saying they're not valuable, but if you rely on that too much, then you start building something that's for the lowest common denominator, which is, sometimes it's okay in terms of mass adoption, but it's also has some drawbacks to it as well. So, us trying to find a sweet spot between convenience versus like these technologies is what this is all about, and that's really hard for us to. That's going to be an ongoing thing for a while. And both points are valid, I should say. Both.
Is it okay to call this something like metadata leakage?
I think we have a metadata leakage. You can. I think there's number 14 or something like that, maybe. It's the same.
The reason for the mixed panels actively introduced where metadata leakage is just a hard problem in general.
Yeah.
Like even if you use HTTP or HTTPS, whatever, like you're still leaking data, so that's something we want to mitigate. But that's a harder problem. But it's just something we're actively doing. It's like a negative, positive thing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why it's single up.
Yeah.
But it's in the class of general metadata leakage.
Yeah.
Easy.
To denial of service through CRISPR packages. This is very related to 7 spamming the network.
So related to?
Spamming the network.
That's more.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe this is more, we could make almost say it's a criticism of Whisper, and maybe there's a discussion topic around, what trade-offs we want from Whisper in order to achieve our goals. That's something we haven't fully discussed. But.
Yeah. I also like when we talked to Whisper, they were also like on the position that they wanted to be super simple at all. Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure they're gonna further explore options.
They also haven't touched it or used it in 2 years, right? So like it's like applied an active research on our part. We can make it whatever we want it. It doesn't have to be called Whisper. We can call it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah.
We can also like explore because if we just solve the problem for Whisper, that might still be an issue for other developers. So maybe there would be a way to solve that for the whole like how to protect the node itself, not to finding the solution.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like a generalized solution if the discovery is a problem.
Yeah,
well.
kind of. Yeah, so I had to call it the jury candidate. So he had experience with reputation-based nodes, and like observing network activity, and based on the network flow, take some actions on developers and application developers. Maybe something like that.
Yeah. As long, I think that's all good as long as it can't be readily or easily used to identify nodes in terms of their physical location. Which, I mean, that's just not semi-constraint. Yeah. But yeah.
Cool. That sounds great.
No perfect for secrecy?
Yeah, we're not a secure messenger without it.
So it's not just more perfect. It's just
Yeah, like we shouldn't be live at all without this. We have an old implementation of double ratchet in Go. Thanks.
Lack of reproducible builds.
Did someone know understand the project called Secrecy? I guess we'll find it.
Yeah, we'll find out in the presentation. I mean, for me, this is like deterministic builds is like incredibly important. Like say for users who are trusting us to provide them with the correct binaries, we should be all building it, well, not all of us, but like a subset of us building this end to end with the same source code, and then signing that we all have the same binary at the end, meaning that nobody has managed to like leak in any sort of nefarious code that at least we're not quite aware of. Like we're probably not aware of most of the code that's in our code base, but this is how like Bitcoin Core does it. Like they have a thing called Gideon, where everyone like its own meta system where you pull down from the Git, you build from the end, and then like I think it's 6-7 people sign that binary, confirming the same hash of that binary.
So the first thing you don't want to have, which a lot of build systems do, is insert a timestamp inside the binary, say when it was built. So if you start having things like that, you can never have the same exact binary at the end. So you have to make sure that you don't introduce things like that into the build.
Yeah, we do right now with the build number.
Yeah.
And if that happens, is the problem that it's unreliable, that we don't know what's in the code? Or what?
We don't know what's in the binary. Yeah.
So the idea is that as a customer, I would be able to build it myself and compare and see that it was exactly the same binary. You know, compare the hashes.
Yeah, so we know that no one like commented out like encryption of internal security.
Yeah.
This is also a canary, right? So maybe if we're deployed in China, we are asked to make a different binary. At least the people in China who are willing to double check the binaries themselves will know that the binary they're deploying is not legitimate.
Yeah, and the one thing that happened in China a lot of times, they get infected developer tools that were injecting viruses and they were building like iOS and Android applications. So that means that it also can serve like if you have a completely reproducible build. So if somebody with like infected developer tool like builds it, you will not get the same hash.
Yeah.
But what is the tool to verify the hash?
Would be a harder problem for them.
Yeah.
Well,
if their shop or whatever cache like shop 3 is broken, then that's well.
So in terms of solutions, is that, I mean, is it just basically like everyone, we agree on a hash system that everyone is signing?
Yeah, there are lots of things because there's JavaScript. Then we need to have all the sub packages somehow committed to the same place, because as soon as like one byte in any like of our JavaScript dependencies changes, this changes, and right now we just download them every time we build, so that might bring whatever. And plus we have the build numbers as well.
I think we package lock.
Currently our build process is quite complex, so it's been quite hard, or like it's been low priority.
I think our like
so
it's
tedious.
completely independent commits with constantly change the package lock, like here and there.
So it's like it's just simplifying that process and then coming up with a signing process at the end.
It's unclear. It's unclear, uncertain how hard it is, because those depends on the ecosystem. Like it's not always straightforward to solve this, but it's ecosystem-wise.
Yeah. I mean, you can split this into 2 chunks. You can make it deterministic builds, and then once we have that, then we can do a second thing, which is just like signing and verifying the binaries.
Okay.
So there's 2 separate things there. And quite frankly, like, I mean, we should have deterministic builds if we're like using Jenkins to build places or building binaries anyway. So it should be somehow there. So there's another problem there is we are pulling in Go binaries into Clojure, at least last time I checked. And so that also prevents us from deploying on F-Droid, because F-Droid requires everything to be completely open source in terms of its compilation. And that would also give us some builds. So there's a lot of wins if we get this going.
So what part is not open source?
Yeah, you have to provide a pipeline, and so they can build it with themselves. And if you have any binary libraries that you're depending on, they project it.
But if we build the binary,
yes, I mean, if you build the binary in the pipeline and then the closure bit then links to that object, that's fine. But at the moment, it doesn't. It kind of like pulls it down from a repository.
That's something we can.
All this is solvable. It's all solvable. It just requires time investment. It's just a lot of stuff.
We just released it. We just released it.
Yeah, of course. No,
There's a low cost.
I know. It's just a project, right? It's not, it should be pretty straightforward to do, but nobody's done it. So. Cool.
Yeah, I thought you were adding something earlier. You guys were having a conversation.
No, we were talking about package in JavaScript.
Yeah.
And so, as far as I know, there's a checksum of the package you put in, and then you have to do that. I hope NPM checks it.
Oscar?
And
I don't know if it checks it, but I saw the package was being changed completely unrelated. Like, I see like one closure line changes and then also package will be changed for some reason. And that's like, I don't know how it does that. So I'm still concerned that we still download everything through the internet every time we do something.
We might do it. That we might. I mean, I'm pretty sure that we do rebuild. The checksum is the same.
Yeah, we just probably need to experiment and check that it's actually that we have the same results when we reveal it's like on the multiple machines with the same thing.
Maybe like also with these sort of things, I don't know if we want to come up with, we need to have some accountability or at least later. Just at the moment, like if we built about this and then I think that's great. Yeah. This is a more than but this is
Yeah, we can do that as output of the breakdown.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think
we don't
it's
have
your
any
single
Once again.
I guess
cluster single point query.
So this is, yeah, kind of a do.
Anything more to say about this one?
Well, if your cluster goes down, then
it's the same as spamming the network.
no, it's not. I mean, no, because I mean, no, because you can
going
spam
down.
the network. Yeah, this is just like you can shut down our service, then you can't use that at all. That's the network is the network in general. So,
Yeah. It's a kind of infinite of code.
Yeah. Well, if we had like good discovery, we had some more dispersed group nodes and more connected to the rest of the network, and then, like mail servers are everywhere, and the same things around spamming the network. Solutions.
Yeah, the solutions are similar.
so pretty much as long as the network is operating, we should be operating as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check the technical accuracy of
Yeah, this I think like there's a transparency and honesty principles or values that I would like to put forward, which this is in violation of almost every time. So it'd be nice to not do that. And I think there's also somewhat of a culture of trying to hide our weaknesses. And quite frankly, we should be where, like, we should have a wall of shame that we have now. You know, we should be communicating that this is our weaknesses and we know this, and we are telling you that this is the case, and then that we're solving it. You know, and I think that's a much more legitimate and honest way of approaching the community.
So if, like, in discussing this item, we can talk about ways to be more transparent or ways to make sure that what we put out there is accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I mean, technical assessment of the communication pieces before they go out is something that should be done. And just not caring so much about trying to hide your flaws, you know, like, we're all human. Yeah, you know, we're all human. I mean, there's people who have opinions on this stuff that hide behind the status banner, right? And then, like, are saying we believe this, and it's like, actually, no, that's not the case. You know, there's a whole bunch of people who don't believe that.
Yeah, we went through 10 items.
Yeah. We have another half an hour, right?
It was 10:30.
forward secrecy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, just how do we want to? Because I think it's a great discussion, right? But it's probably more we can have this. How do we want to keep this live? Do you have any thoughts on that? How we would update it or do this type of thing or follow up?
I actually think we need to have a separate discussion tomorrow about the process and how we're going to keep this going. So we won't be able to understand.
Yeah, and there was
and there's probably like after we think about values and principles, maybe like all of us can go to the application, what we're doing,
So at least for these 10 items, we're saying we'll discuss them in breakout groups, and for these, we will have a more in-depth conversation about potential solutions and mitigations that are documented, and ideally with GitHub issue attached to it, if we can do that. And then the rest we discuss tomorrow, how we can pick up on those.
I've taken some notes as we've gone along on each of the discussion points. So
I have one question. I prepared the slides for like how to do threat modeling in general. Is this interested for everyone? Because I was planning to initially take it to the breakout groups, but I can just tell them.
I think it would be good for everyone.
Yeah, I'll just tell the sort of the slides here and then.
Because this is like more of a random brainstorm list and get people's heads synced, but that would be more rigorous for you. Yeah, I think you need to message to this.
I think it's a bit from the screen, but I would suggest we stick to the agenda.
Yeah, of course.
Andrea presents now, and then
yeah, of course.
Basically, over secrecy stems up from what it is. So generally speaking, you're going to use one encryption key. I'm talking about actually over the wire backup, so storing in, a few pass step backup through the network. Then you generally would use one single key, and that basically invalidates any forward secrecy. Different charts handles this differently. For example, WhatsApp does, so backups has forward secrecy in their messages. They use the same secret protocol, but it do so backup, unencrypted. And we demonstrated that for my network, for example, like they didn't get access to import that conversation, but they got access to lifetime storage. Signal, which is basically like the one that, like is more, I know there's a kind of controversy about it, but it's more secure and listen to the protocol. Does not allow you to store backups anywhere. It allows you to have backups, but only local. If you want to import, you need to, and also only Android, because I think iOS you probably don't have access to that. So, you need to export it manually yourself, and then add it to that. So that's one way to do backups if you don't have what. So now we go through like some examples of applications, what they, like essentially what if they have FOBO6. So GPG is a very old protocol. It's used to send emails and verify that the sender is someone. It's only used public key cryptography, and it has public key cryptography doesn't have any FOBO6.
I'm kind of curious, who uses GPG here?
In what?
And with how many people?
I use it
with 2 people, right? And so like, the point is like the user experience of this program. Yeah. Just the way that they've implemented and how like deployed means that only most technical people use it, and even then they don't use it all the time. So.
I only use it like for the bank reports when they send email to me. I just give it my key and it's encrypted.
It's notoriously difficult to use. Then there's SSL. SSL does now use for secrecy. The algorithm they use for key exchange, which provides for secrecy, is differhelpment. Differhelpment is a way to basically share a secret between 2 parties without passing the secret over the wire. And the session is a TCP connection. So every TCP connection, every connection to the server will have a different session. And so, like, if you, for example, manage to compromise one session, you will not be able to compromise this. It's still not all necessarily going to have it, but nowadays, most of them have done the hard way. But many of them did not have it, and that's why they had it. Then IPSEC, which is VPN, uses the same. If you have a bit of a standard, so most of them use it. And basically, it's going to rekey after a certain amount of time. So after a certain amount of time, you're going to get a new key using a new method. So your session is time-based. And then there's the ones that are more interesting to us. So OTR is sort of like off the record, and it is a very interesting algorithm. So the initial key exchange is going to be using differhelpment. And then it starts a ratchet. And so basically you're going to have a key exchange, or it's going to attempt, rather, a key exchange with each message pass. It's cool. We think about it as a synchronous ratchet, because basically what is going to happen is that you're going to send a key to the other peer. The other peer is going to have to acknowledge the key to make sure that he's received it. And then, you can use it once it's been acknowledged. So it doesn't support out-of-order messages, for example, like very well. And it works well when you're quite certain that the message will be received. Because otherwise you get into a situation where, if you send a message, it's not been acknowledged. You send another message and it's not been acknowledged. And so it's a bit tricky for us because Whisper protocol is partially synchronous. Your session is basically consecutive messages. So if I send 5 messages to a user, it will be using the same key. Then if it applies with 3 messages, those 3 messages are going to use a different key, but those 3 messages will have the same key. So any consecutive message is basically a session. And then this is double ratchet, the one that we've been talking about most. And is, let's say, asynchronous. We say asynchronous because basically any message contains all the information there, and that needs to be, that you need to decrypt it. So if I send you, it supports out-of-order messages quite well. And it's double ratchet because it's got 2 ratchets. So one ratchet is
basically at the development ratchet. So with every message you pass a new public key, which is being used to actually encrypt that message. And then you also have another ratchet for consecutive messages, basically. So you have what we call a hash ratchet. So you take the encryption key, use the encryption key to encrypt the message. The next message, you take a hash of that encryption key. So, which does provide for security, for secrecy, a hash ratchet, but it doesn't provide what we call a break-in recovery. So, if some attacker manages, if you don't use a hash ratchet, and an attacker manages to get hold of one of the keys, it will not be able to decrypt previous messages. So it works for secrecy, but it would be able to do any other messages. So the break-in recovery is not very. So they couple that with the IPH ratchet, so that you have quite good, like break-in recovery. If you manage to get the hash ratchet, for example, key, you still will not be able to do next future sessions. And so the session is basically like any message will have a different session. So how do we, what do we want, essentially? For us, like ideally, I think the double bracket and X3DH, which is the initial key exchange, which is signal protocol, is, it would be good to be at that stage. The double ratchet is fairly easy to implement for us because it doesn't require any server-side storage. The problem is the initial key exchange. Because the initial key exchange from this X3DH is basically requires some server-side storage. You have two ways to go about it, not maybe more, but like two ways to go about it. So one is an OTR exchange, which means that essentially, like you won't be able to send messages until a key exchange if you want to. That means that the two peer needs to be online to have like a good flow. Otherwise, you need to send a message. You need to send like initial key exchange, and the other user is offline. Like you're basically preventing communication without the exchange. As it's not where we want to go. Another way is to actually get then find a storage solution. Storage solution that we talked about are IPFS as well, and those kind of work, but we won't be able to fully implement X3DH because X3DH use a bunch of one-time keys, and the usage of them is atomic. So if I want to contact someone, I take this one-time key, and that one-time key is not to be used by anyone else. And IPFS does not really provide that. We can sort of say the client might reject that, but then you get into the same problem. That you don't have efficient communication. Because what we want to really do is like anytime we send a message to the user, we want to put content in it, and that's what Signal provides. IPFS is not good. Don't have it for that. So we kind of still use X3DH, but without the one-time key, which is something that Signal does as well, because sometimes it happens in the Signal protocol that all the one-time keys are used up.
What are your thoughts about doing like physical sharing of these keys up front? So you can do like QR code and share a bunch of data between each other and then use that for each other. So you can't use it like for contacts over the wire, but if I have like met somebody physically, then I can have a more guaranteed security. Yeah.
It depends on, again, it's probably the most frictional because if, you need to kind of like really set up a meeting, and so it really depends on at that point OTR is also okay,
right?
Because you can say, well, okay, let's meet up online at 4 o'clock, and and then you have a safe key exchange, and if both peers are online, that works well. And many of the prior perhaps all these chat applications, like they use OTR key chain, and they only work when OTR. We are in this mixed mode where like you can actually communicate through basically a third party. And so it'd be nice to have an algorithm that actually supports both cases, works well with both cases. You can use smart contracts as well, possibly. Essentially, because you have transactions, right? So like it requires probably some payments. You can make a transaction to say, I'm going to use this one-time key. Like the user can publish them on the blockchain. Problem with that is that how do you really provide an anonymity? I mean, the transaction is public, so I can see that you contacted me. Yeah. Unless you have an anonymous transaction, it won't work. And then like there's some some problems like double ratchet would require essentially encrypting twice in Whisper. So there's other properties there. Plausible deniability, much harder to get right on Whisper. Plausible deniability basically is really that XVDH provided, but Whisper does not really give us a very good plausible deniability. Basically, like plausible deniability is when if I send a message to you, you should be certain that it's been sent by me, right? Because you want that authentication. But if you show it to someone else, you can't prove that I sent you that message. So essentially, if you, the recipient, can forge that message, then you have plausible deniability. And that is something that it's quite useful to add as a key method. And so this is also a problem that Whisper has plausible deniability mode, but it still requires to sign some bits of the text. And so I don't know how strong that would be.
So from a user experience standpoint, it's very common to exchange your contact information by QR code, at least with WeChat. You can also imagine putting some maybe 12 months worth of keys in there, one-time keys. So then there is a way of at least having some extra security there if they're doing contact exchange.
Yeah, you need to still be careful that it might be reused because you publish it QR code online. Yeah. And typically it's the same.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have the same screenshot problems as the seed threads,
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Good. A few minutes break.
Yeah, a few minutes break.
And then cut modeling is on.
Yeah.
Or I don't mean that.
This is a watch, but this is a chunky? Yep. So it's all it is. One of the things that I thought it was one that was holding up and that's how the internal.
No. Yeah.
There's this, I listen to there's a similar concept for it's just a transaction. Probably it works or not. It works.
Morning. We went through all those issues and assessed them. Each one of us classified this as being 1 benign
Yeah, you definitely don't want to reuse it. You don't mind exposing which key you use. You don't want to know where it will be used.
But if someone reused the key, do you know it?
You won't, not yet.
So you can say also,
you can say pick up a different person. Yeah. The thing is that then you need to know, like ideally, like, what you want. You need that any message has context. Right. Because that's like essentially that's what signals. That's why I get that. That's one of the main reasons. Because also like if no one can do it, you can send content because there's no way it's being used to get quick out. Like, which ideally you don't have requests. At that point, you see the
so the risk for someone to use it is final. So you advertise if you have enough keys.
You ready for the fight? You ready for the fight?
Sorry?
For the fight. You ready?
Of course.
Okay. I'm waiting for you so long.
Where's the map?
We don't need one. Just go outside. We'll see.
So you can actually decrypt the message afterwards.
Yeah, but you can do stuff like you can force session reviews.
How long did you train?
3 years.
3 years? So it's like
2 years.
Not that much.
They're not meant to be renewed.
The 3
There's
years.
no point to. Then at that point, there's no
It's not the end of the one,
Yeah,
you should start with the review key and then you at some point
Yeah,
so you
still.
can know we have to change the one.
It's not the end of the can, but it's just like.
No, I started and then
Why have it?
actually had a cracked rib.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Going up.
I was like away.
I don't know. Shrimps. I mean, academy is training.
Yeah, I don't care. It was just convenient. It was right next to my job.
Yeah,
So
yeah, just
I could put that with your lunch breaks. It was nice.
Cool.
What I say is that there is a reuse and the just like they reuse another one.
I'm staying the
Your the purple makes sure that it doesn't. You can reuse the key, but it's only that's
I'm here on vacation and it's just promise.
Some kind of bonus?
Yeah.
I completely agree. There's definitely this much
Just,
that
the name.
something that I've tried to express more.
No, you don't have to. That's what I'm asking. Like, can you still have the conversation?
No football, second day or so.
But as soon as there is a reply,
You're watching football now? Is it football now? Okay.
Oh,
would it compromise something?
that's fine.
So you can
So
I guess I
as soon as they apply to you,
the BJJ is not that popular.
move away from one.
Yeah, that's.
You participate in the mini competition?
It's the initial lesson.
No?
So we can just let you
One, okay. Which
When
one?
I was white sub,
Okay.
I got silver.
Oh, wow. Good. Very good.
Singapore.
Okay, cool. Covers low.
Very low.
Really?
I mean, I got a silver. Couldn't be good. No, it was like maybe 100%.
Wow, wow. Yeah, which way is your?
that is very good.
It would be nice, but
Oh, okay.
kilograms.
Yeah, okay, this is the most crowded. Middle heavy, like 75, so this is a lot of people.
You start with BJJ and nothing else.
I was participating this year in Poland. I got silver as well.
There we go. Congratulations.
I was shooting. No, really, I was like in finals. I was 5 minutes ago. Like I was about to submit them, but then I did something, and I lost by one. But it's not even points. This IPJF rules. Stupid. Like, if I push you and you like move it, no? But actually, I did not. But I am like trying to secure something, and I got advantage. The soup is not successful. And you just defended yourself, so I got on. That's stupid. So I lost only one of them. I was so fucking disappointed. But next time.
So how many rounds did you go?
3. Yeah, because it was a problem among women. A lot of men, but there were like 10 registered participants, but then 2 just didn't go. So
Automatic disqualification.
yeah. I was participating in those, like the local competitions for
Everybody knows each other and makes the same tricks. That's a nice thing, like competitions that you go up against people that you don't train with.
But again, you know, it's not US and not Brazil. A lot of women there, but not in Europe. I was planning to go to Germany, but the small cities they organized it was so far, like, so I have to go to Berlin, then from Munich, and then from Munich to this location. Super. Yeah, the same in Spain. They booked this sports center somewhere away from Madrid, so I have to go to Madrid and then the 30 or 40 kilometers west. And you know, on the one hotel over here, overbooked already. Are you going to participate? It's just fun. Yeah, no, but no, it's like where you live now, here in Switzerland.
No, in Costa Rica.
Well, I
Blue belt, medal. Like my weight, it's very competitive. And I really care about the I'm just doing it, you know, it's really serious people that, that they won't mind hurting their opponent, not just to win and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but there's also problems. You know, large men showing the geese, the expensive geese, expensive uniform, like, it's like sometimes.
Yeah, so I've had the same gear for 4 years and it works. I have to.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to everybody was like wearing tatami and something like a lot of like t-shirts and so on, like a lot of merch. It was like a party.
Oh, by the way, we had the tradition.
No, I only cared about one thing, the weight, because when you do competition, they weigh you with the gear.
Yeah.
So I just bought a light one.
5 years is a lot. 5 years is a lot.
Yeah, I just got the purple. Like I was pretty lazy, I didn't train a lot.
I got the purple to fight with you, even you're purple.
Yeah.
Kidding, so it's fun.
We can bring these to the hotel next time.
Yeah, of course. Everybody will participate. No one is except of us.
everyone. Oscar was the first one.
Yeah, she's challenging me.
Yeah.
There's a school right next to me, and there's quite a few Muslim people.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty realistic training. The only thing the injury rate is.
But the rate of like get injury is like extremely low.
Well,
so that's like my main. I can spend money like for a contact score with I'm going to get like
it's kind of surprising, but like Muay Thai and boxing and those, they have lower rates of injuries. Mm-hmm. They have injuries which are superficial, like cuts and stuff, so it's going to be like lots of blood, but not serious. Whereas BJJ goes for the bones. Okay. That you might have like a crack with bone or you know, I have a red one. Beware of fat guys. It's the fat guys.
And so we can go as a like very comfortable going in like
very like the racer gyms, they don't have something like like a visitor thing.
Hmm? There's one right next to me.
I mean, you got to already. I think it depends. Like I said, this one is very realistic. It's like all this stuff you do using competition, but it's also a sport. Like so it's not like a martial art. It's not. Like, I don't go for Yaido, which is like the Japanese sword thing. Right? We practice with real swords, but kind of hard to practice in Korea. They mostly practice all these things and stuff. Mm-hmm. That one doesn't have the sword element to it, so it's more pure martial art, right? From the martial art point of view. Whereas all the ones that have been sportified, they basically cut away all the. So judo, for example, judo used to be a lethal both attack to the center part, but nowadays judo is that there's like Olympic judo and people do like small sort of stuff and big points. So the way that you train is not to maximize the effect, it's to maximize the points. Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference, right? Same thing. We were just saying that.
Same with fencing.
Hmm? Yeah, fencing is the same, right? And we were saying that like you can get like advantages for single stuff.
Yeah, like you're pretending to make a sweep or something, and then if I do that, but you're like still stable, still defending yourself, and I'm trying to do that, I get an advantage, and you get nothing. So I could just push you. That's it. Mm-hmm. An advantage, so I can win, mm-hmm. But without actually doing anything like mm-hmm. real.
Mm-hmm. That's how BJJ is strategy. It's like staying alive for the duration of the fight and collecting points. So you might make some moves which are not really geared towards, say, winning like submission. If you know that you have no points to strategize and play it safe.
Next meetup will be in BJJ camp.
Huh?
Next meetup will be in BJJ
Are you gonna
camp.
go? I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know the point system. I just know if someone's unconscious, I'll say.
You know, if someone's
it's unconscious, I can look for tabs.
If someone is crying, that's enough.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any logic to it.
Right.
It's good strategy. Whereas if you want like the mental stuff, you go like that. Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't. Well, I guess I'll figure it out.
I started talking quite a lot for last time.
Yeah, still got it.
Hey, white sugar.
Yeah,
It's your assessment.
it's super relevant in some things.
Because we had this market that shows us better where we are right now. So I know we are really decentralized and that's nice.
Once you turn on the pop button, it just keeps going. But it's funny, you can also turn it off. It's like custom, right? I need to open it, and then it switches on right where
Sooner or later, we need to change to actually deliver.
These are always really interesting things to say, right? So, like,
it's funny how he speaks as well. He speaks in like logical statements. It's like he splits up his argument into chunks, and then like explains them in the logical order. It's like if this, therefore this, therefore that, and these two together, therefore that. Very regular.
And he he will revise, like if he says something that is slightly off, he'll revise it on the spot and go back to correct himself to be more so really admirable traits.
It's interesting.
Sure. Are you going to do your own column and classify? Good. We made the issues today, and today we have the classification individually. So maybe you can add your own column and add your opinions. So we don't grow, you don't have to.
I thought you guys. It was on that work.
Okay. So you're missing that app now.
Huh?
Will you sign that? You have new key. Can you sign that statement?
That's secure.
That's today. That's this meeting with us.
We're working group now.
In classifying our ship list, I really trust it.
Mushroom yourself.
I ate too much of these for the other two.
Never too much for them. Never too
Because
much.
I live in East of France, so it's next to Germany, and in Germany you get fat ones.
I think they had
I have to extend my arm.
some drugs inside because
That's the one I want. Oh. Today they are less. They are more. That's a good point, right? Yeah, because they were very melted.
I put them in the fridge last night.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Very, very easily.
I noticed that. It's like kind of gross. This is disgusting.
Yeah, but
On stream.
are we?
What?
Patrick, are you streaming?
Awesome. Yeah, I'll talk a bit about threat management in general and this stride technique that we found, and so that's like a pretty useful technique for, especially when we are not like coming from the security background, just for more generic security audience. So a lot of this in this article, in this presentation is based on that article. So you have read it. I'm sure it was shared in the channel by Jacek. I don't know. So if you didn't read it, then you will see some new stuff. If you did, you will see much less of the new stuff. So I'm not pretending that I'm inventing it. So, but yeah, and Jacek for sure read this article because it was you who shared it. Yeah. So cool. So let's talk about threat modeling in general. How do we do it in general? So the methodology itself is first to understand what is that we are building, like in technical details, and as a part of it, what sensitive information do we have in the product in general, and where do we store, process, use it, like how it flows, things like that. Then we should figure out what can go wrong, and that's what strike kicks in specifically. Then there is the step what we're actually going to do about it, and then the last step is self-assessment about did we do a good job. It means it's a bit of a vague point, but like if we found something to address each critical issue, for instance, we did a good job, but then it's more or less up to the real life to figure out if we actually did a good job implementing these things. So yeah. So first step is about what is that we're building. You can see my awesome drawing skills here. So I'm just saying we probably it's usually useful to have some kind of a diagram. There are the different types of diagrams useful for different things. So the simplest one is some kind of
What do you use to draw?
iPad and pencil. Yeah. So essentially the like simplest thing is essentially show components and data flows and sort of this is called a security perimeter. Like inside it is something that we control. Outside it is something that we don't control. It's like third parties, the internet, whatever. So in our case, Ajax is very simplified. So we somehow connect the reaction and go and then set it to mail service and Instagram. It's of course super simplified. We need more details if we want to do real threat analysis. We need to know, okay, this level DB where we store like whisper messages. This is like one more DB that we store like mail server messages. Here we store like the real database where we store different stuff.
And just to clarify, if you're in a JSON RPC server, the user can define this.
Yeah. And this might be like another. So really just again, I just draw it during the Andreas presentation. I just try to be very.
The only reason I'm driving that point home is because I think there's a valuable distinction from a communication standpoint.
Yeah,
you know,
but
that's trying to slide together.
That's why it's important to have when we're drawing that to have as many people as possible because different people might have different insights and different opinions and different inputs. So we need to actually this helps to align everyone on the same page about what exactly the state of the things is now. What did we build as of now? Because that's what we're gonna know. Not in the bright future when everything is done there, but now.
Yeah. Where's sort of the network here? Like because I mean to me that's sort of the simple part as well, like the actual peer-to-peer network, right?
Somewhere the internet or whatever network. I don't know. It's again there should be some network here. Again, when we'll do the exercise, I hope that the people who will go to the like Excel threat modeling part, we'll try to do it like in more details for you. Just it's not correct and not complete. And the most incorrect way was that I do it alone. It shouldn't be like that. It should be common thing. So that as soon as we agree on that, we also figure out what kind of sensitive information do we actually store and use. That might be like user passwords, anything that can identify user in general, maybe he's like public keys or whatever. Like anything, we need to like list this and then show the diagram where it is like being transferred or used or like stored or cached for some time, things like that. Again, if we have the more detailed model of the system we have, the more threats we'll be able to identify. Right? And the next thing, that was the question about what are we building, right? The next question is what could go wrong, and that's where stride comes in. And essentially, stride is an acronym that's so these few words. I will explain each one in more details a bit later, but it's just a useful acronym. It goes about which parameters we should like have. What areas of what could go wrong, which types of what could go wrong with each of the areas of the app. And then we can go back to the scheme, for instance. And see, okay, we store, I don't know, for instance, the signing phrase here. So is there any way it could be, something could be spoofed here? Is there any way something could be tempered? It could be tempered with? Is there any way to do basically denial of service with this? So we basically go to each of that, apply to each of the sensitive parts of the sensitive information where it's being transferred.
How do you think this generalizes out of just the app? So if you think of us as building more of a network, and then maybe one component that would be like establish the legal entity. So if that were to be attacked, where would something like that fall within this framework? Or would it be a separate thing?
Think it's a little bit, this one is slightly technical. I mean, because threat modeling is a specialization of risk management in general. So there are some probably more generalized techniques for risk management for organizations and things like that. So I didn't look into that, but we probably could. I think that's the last thing. I will show how to assess risk about severity and things during what's the methodology, and it shows that there is some business related. There are some business related. But right now, this one is like a more technical system. It's
on this one is financial.
To me, one way I would think of it, which I'm not sure, but like for example, censorship would be one, and you can imagine like censorship of transactions, regardless of if it's on the fair network or in the fiat world. That would be one. I would think of that, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that
maybe it is.
Things like smart contracts, I think they kind of mix this up, like technical systems together with legal stuff. So then maybe it's something like some hybrid approach should be taken, like because smart contract is contract, but it's also code, which can be like exposed to competition.
So maybe I just stop the company, but like in the sort of this is a CIA model, right? Which I think is maybe before this, and then it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And I guess availability would then touch on both DOS attacks, denial of service, and also things like censorship, because there's a form of not having available information or network or legal structures or so
yeah.
Another.
That sounds like a bit more generic.
Yeah.
And again, it's again threat modeling. I mean, it depends. For different people, different teams, different models might work better. What's good about this? That usually gives repeatable results on like the same. If you like repeat the threat modeling multiple times in the same group, you kind of get to similar results, which is very good because not like it will be all over the place because something maybe it gives it a cost of flexibility, so it's not as flexible you can apply to everything in the world. A little bit more. Now will be a few of slides. Spoofing. It's in a very wide sense pretending to be someone other than yourself. It might be in terms of that you made a transaction and pretend to be a user that made a transaction. It might be that you send the link to a channel that has like query like A, and then it's not that channel but pretends to be. That might be, yeah, a lot of all the phishing attempts go to this page. Like anything that could be done when you try to pretend to be someone else, it goes as spoof. It's very generic. Obviously, tampering is also very generic. It's like when we try to modify something somewhere, it might be in RAM, it might be on storage, it might be in network, it might be like anywhere. Again, if you manage to flip one bit inside the memory of the program, sometimes like if someone it's sometimes enough to just avoid all the authentication, right? Because if there is a Boolean variable that technically can be flipped, you can be like authorized immediately. So things like that, everything falls into this category.
This is super important from the user experience, from the lookout. because that's where most folks today, and then we can provide technical solutions to some of them. But it's up to the user. Perhaps by having them on the signal and
yeah, in the sense of like that the user doesn't notice or doesn't or is not aware of the tampering that is occurring.
Like in an ideal world, this is almost driven from user experience. Like this line of thinking for assessments, and then I mean, we can deal with networking actors, right? But the users themselves, those are much harder.
Then it's a repudiation. Then when you claim that you didn't do something you actually did, it means that, for instance, you either can replace your name in the log, or you can remove the logs whatsoever, or anything that you kind of should leave traces of things, but you don't leave traces, or you kind of change it that someone else did. So that's all falls into this category. The next thing is obviously, when you provide information to anyone who shouldn't see it, it might not be just you leak it to anyone. You might leak it to just one user, but this one user should never ever see this type of information. That's already like information. So it's like a large scale that we share data to the world that we shouldn't, or on a small scale that we just share someone just shouldn't see it. Then obviously DOS, everyone probably knows what that is, but it's like doing something that the application doesn't have, or the server doesn't have resources to continue working properly, to continue serving its purpose. Like it can be anything. Again, the typical thing that we always talk about is like network attacks, like distributed denial of service attacks. A lot of computers clean one server and goes down. But it might be also with some very like, I don't know, tricky input, you can pull the, like spawn an infinite loop inside your application and then it's never like you, or who was talking about like infinite retry attacks where we just have broken messages. So this is the similar thing where we just get all the benefit by just retrying and receiving broken message and retrying and receiving broken message. It's a lot of things in there. And the last thing is the elevation of privilege. And it's essentially we allow somebody to make an action that you shouldn't have access to. Again, the most simplistic scenario when you have like normal users and admins, and for some reason normal user can do something that admin can. So it's the typical scenario. But anything, it might be also that admin shouldn't be able to change something in the user documents. When you have like clear separation between users, maybe even admin users shouldn't be able to like write to the user documents. You might be able just to remove the user, but shouldn't be able to like change one file in the user. So it's also be an elevation of privilege if the admin is somehow managed to write a file inside the bundle of user pretending to be a user. So that's tried in like an overview, acronym. So and now it's a little bit of practical things about how can we do threat modeling and try it in particular.
Just a general point on that administration thing. Like we are doing things in a decentralized and trustless way, so we shouldn't have any admins, even especially in chat moderation. You don't want to do like a one-time trust decision to enshrine an individual, because they can then later on use that, and you have no faculties of it.
That's one of the techniques of if you manage to redesign your system in a way that you just don't have this problem by design, it's the best way of mitigation, right? Because you don't need to add anything.
Elevation of privilege might also be breaking somebody else's fault. Through some whatever, right? I don't know, one fingerprint and they use like one of those little gummies. Right. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah. It's the same.
Actually, how splittable is the fingerprint scanning from phone? I have no idea.
It depends on which fingerprint.
It used to be super easy. You could do the basic like protocol here. Really? Yeah.
It's
like,
still,
some of them that use the most, like that's it has to be light
fingers.
So you have to finish up. So finger and this finger, and it's fine. It's like a chop off finger and then like hook up the arteries. Water through it.
What was good about Apple thing is that it also check the temperature.
Yeah, I don't know about Face ID
so
too.
Like you can just cut off someone's big finger and put it there because
It happens quite a lot.
Yeah, so very fast.
Where's the glove?
But the face recognition, what they did is to be more easier
So
because they
if
have
someone
more
dies,
points,
you have to do
more unique points.
you need to do CPR.
How they do face stuff because it's also impossible because they seed random private key and then generate a random number out of it and then convert this random number into a grid of dots and then project this grid of dots which is unique to this device to this session on the user space and then they can't so that's pretty tricky so you can't even like scan so you can't use another phone and things like that they will have different you can replay the infrared from one phone to another but yeah that's probably there are some other problems but so yeah one of the techniques is both of them that I will talk related to trees because I like trees reference. So one is called thread trees, and that means that we kind of take for instance, remember we were talking about some sensitive data. We just take sensitive data, we figure out what could just go wrong with like credit card number, for instance, credit card details. What could go wrong with it? Okay, somebody will successfully obtain someone else's credit card, and then we try to figure out how in our system is it possible? So it's like an typical banking system. Okay, someone broke the S, or someone just looked at over the shoulder when somebody was typing anything. Someone like faked the terminal, like the ATM, or you can pick all of this just to figure out. Not all of this you should mitigate in the future, right? But just to have like full picture, to do like fully fledged threat analysis, you just try to do. Okay, this is a piece of sensitive data. What can go wrong with it and how, like in the world in general, can it go wrong?
This would be really good to communicate out. Like if we had these nice pictures of the entire threat model.
Yeah, but I think I think they did like full-fledged threat model.
I'm not aware of the like internal how we perceive that.
Then there are another tree is
If we know people who we trust to do it, yeah. I don't know, none top of mind, but I'm sure others.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but it's still nice to have more people so that it's also education.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the first round on the
yeah, something like that. So that's this one, that's a tree related specifically to Stripe. So we find one sensitive like client data, for instance, and then first step is spoofing. So spoofing client, what can we do to spoof that client? And then what the problem could be like authentication UI is broken or somebody somehow obtained the credentials. We don't have enough checks in our code or some backup problems like that's like cloud backups and some troubles with it. So that's another way to actually list threats. So at this point, we're just listing what's possible. And after listing them, we should somehow analyze so essentially what we tried to do in this group before, but how to do like, I would say right, but the whole point of the next slide would be how to make repeatable results and to have people more or less on the same thing. That's why it's really fun. So obviously this is like a huge mathematical formula there. The risk severity is likelihood times impact. And then we go to the questions and tables. First question is like, we're trying to figure out likelihoods. I'll just read it because people can see this small one. The first point is who can exploit. It's called threat agent. So, and by who can exploit it means how skillful you should be. Did you have any reward for exploiting that? Does it have any special resources like hardware or like access to your phone, for instance, or any other specific, a lot of money to buy a firewall server, something like this? Or in the size of the group, like how many out of all of the people could be potential of exploited, like either like normal internet users, like only the app developers who can just fake their certificate somewhere or something, or somebody who has like access to internal network or our partners. So this is who can exploit it, and there are also numbers, assigned to each kind of category. So you try to write this number down. And then what is being exploited? How like the properties of the vulnerability itself. So how easy it is to discover it. And the worst one when there already are automated tools who scan for that and check that, right? And so how easy is it to exploit it actually? And again, the worst one is there are already some automated tools that can just exploit it. How aware the potential threat agents are about this risk? Was it like published already somewhere? For instance, that's why there like if somebody found some vulnerability, they usually first privately report it to, let's say, I don't know, Google if they found it in Chrome, or to Microsoft if they found it in Windows, right? And only when it's fixed, they publicly release like some kind of a, okay, we did this like CD or something about, okay, we found this vulnerability and exploited this way, but it's already public. If that's already public knowledge and we still have this issue, then we have a big problem. If it's a secret and only we know it or no one knows it. And then the fourth one, which is easy to forget, is can we somehow detect that we're being broken?
Maybe not fine, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the next one, can we somehow detect this like any way? Like, if the app itself can detect and do something about it, it's okay. If it just can be logs, and then we have some logs that are reviewed by people, and these logs are reviewed by people. So, for instance, it's like some critical logs in what's that, Kibana or some place like this. It's better. If it's like just logged, yeah, it should be 8 here. If it's just logged but nobody reads these logs, it's almost as bad as not logging it at all. So it's like if you have it in debug logs but no one reads debug logs because there are gigabytes and gigabytes of size, then you can imagine that you almost don't have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Number one should be like detected and retaliated.
And the second part was impact. And in fact, it might be technical and business. So first is like the confidentiality of someone is lost. And it might be like, oh, we read some non-sensitive data, I don't know. It's 5 last letters of public key somewhere. It's not that bad. Or, and the worst one, of course, all data, all our database leaked somewhere, like with private keys, with like transactions, everything. Then the next one is like loss of integrity. It's when some data gets corrupted. And if it's like recoverable and a small amount, it's not bad. And the worst one, of course, like all data is totally corrupt, we have no backups. And yeah, that's the worst part. The next is loss of availability. So we might lose like secondary services and not all of them. We get not that. Much worse it is to like actually lose the primary services within DRS attack, and or maybe we can lose all the services. And the last one is loss of accountability, and it means that okay, can we somehow trace this attacker later on? So did he leave enough traces so we can find him later and figure out who he was and stuff like this? If it's possible to fully trace him, it's not as bad as if it's totally impossible. Somebody broke in and we might not even know that someone broke in. So it's completely untraceable. So we don't even know the fact that we were broken. The second thing is like business. And of course, it's financial damage, which is obviously the scale. So if we're going backward after this, like breaking, that's the worst thing to do. The second thing is reputational damage. That's also pretty obvious. The third thing is if we are operating in some legal field, it's like non-compliance with this, some legal requirements because of this break-in. So there might be like minor violation, clear violation, or like even like high compliance violation. Everyone knows about it. No problem. And the last one is the privacy violation. And in here, privacy violation is more about how many users are affected. Here on the wiki, it's one user or 1 to 10 users. And here, if it's 100,000. And in here is just number because there's also lots of confidentiality that shows about what kind of information gets exposed. And to actually get everyone on the same page, there are some things. So first you put numbers in each one. You do like an overall likelihood. Then you figure out if it's like high or low, and then you got this table again. This one is like medium to medium. Medium is like low to high, and things like that. So, and then you figure out that what's kind of severity, and that brings everyone on the same page. I mean, it's a bit clunky because there are a lot of numbers, you have to fill tables and stuff like this, but that kind of brings everyone on the same page, on the same scale about how do we think about severity. And that's, I guess, all I wanted to talk about modeling. So these things are useful, these books are useful. So, yeah, that's it.
Should put these things in the discuss threads for the links to these presentations. So.
Yeah, so maybe I'm alone in this, but one problem I had when I was looking at these thread models and so on is that they seem very centered on this specific type of organization, like this use of Microsoft and Google and so on. And so they're operating within, they have this organizational structure and they have employees and they have admins and all this stuff. And it feels like our thread model is different, just the way we're structured. Like, in terms of what we're trying to do here, we're trying not to have service, for example, we're trying not to have privileged people. There's also some sort of legal, financial aspects that I think are much more important to us. And just for examples, if you look at people who try to implement not even strong cryptography, but even like someone like there's a thing called CryptoKitty, which is a way of bringing end-to-end encryption to masses. And this individual had a lot of problems when he was entering the US and was getting detained, and like they tried to like blackmail him with like honeypot him, and like there's all these kinds of interesting attacks, right? And if, I'm not sure if these threat models completely capture it. They feel more centered on like internet, and so I don't know. I mean, it's useful, but like, is it a separate threat model or?
Yeah, I think it's a separate threat model. I think this is a very applicable sort of the application and the sort of what we're actually trying to build, including the infrastructure. The organizational stuff is definitely find another threat model or threat assessment framework to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this is applicable to
absolutely.
Even like
so do you think of those like two separate problems completely? I mean, that's doable.
I mean, I certainly do think they're separate problems. But then when it comes to like even the implementation of how we do the organizational design, that'll be like partially software as well. So it will also benefit from doing Stripe and that as well. But I would say that's different from the context of the application. And I think it's useful for us to partition that so we can focus and go through something like this, and we'll certainly learn something along the way.
Yeah, so when working on the wallet, for example, analyze the wallet well. It doesn't have so much to do with.
No, you're right. So
all those other things. Yeah. I really want to have like something which is good for the wallet, because the wallet is such an piece and such a high profile and high value to be effective, right? And the same thing if we do go down the secure messenger, again, that's a pure technical piece. There's nothing organizational in there. So, so that's the argument for using something.
So do we want to petition that discussion completely and just say like that's not anything we want to deal with today or tomorrow? I mean, it's an option, right?
Yeah, but this also ties back to the other set of things that we're evaluating our features under, which is like the centralization practice. They're not covered here either, right? Exactly. So when we do develop a feature, right, first, whether we're going to do it or not depends on whether it aligns with our so-called values, right? But then when we have it there, and there's like, and we want to see if it's secure and if it's based on the experience of the people that built all these systems, right? That's what we're trying to use. We're trying to simplify the world into these whatever five categories. And they're very specific for security, like you said, but the features that we're building, security is essential in them.
Yeah, but I'll say, like, Stride itself, like the threat modeling, is not enough for this case, right? So it wants organization, but I think the risk rating is pretty generic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this part is like it might be applied to the existing.
So something like censorship resistance, for example, where would that fit in here? Would we sort of not ignore that? Because to me, that seems to be kind of the key of what we're doing. So I don't know where, I feel like that should be captured in some kind of... That's just part of it, right? That's just part of it. It's one attack. So I'm just saying, like, Andrew, I think the reason that censorship resistance is not a thing is because this is developed at a concept like Microsoft, where what censorship? If the government knocks on your door, you comply. Like, who are you going to censor? Like, that's not happening. And if you go to China, you tweak your software. I mean, that's kind of, it's a different world, I think.
Yeah, but we can extend this as well.
Yeah.
Some important credit for us, like that one of the things that these all are like points of discussion, and points of like where you can focus, okay, now we're thinking about what can we do, and then you can add some more things to think about. Because it's our case, you shouldn't just follow the methodology.
The methodology is very akin to your questions. The questions that you should ask yourself when you're designing a feature, right? It's not a, doesn't end there.
Yeah. And it's not a roadmap, right? So it's not, so that as long as we just do these 5 things, we're good, right? We also have some our own purpose.
How do we get to break out in groups? Now, because I understand the conversation about should we use this framework or should we extend it? Maybe we can use today's game experience and see where Stride is helpful as a tool and where it kind of breaks.
Do you want to have some discussion about values and principles before we do that? So if we split into 2 groups, we can imagine that there's sort of the bottom-up group, they would maybe apply something like this and see where it comes from, and the principal group would do their own thing, and then we see the overlap / differences.
Before we go there, what would you suggest instead?
I don't know. I feel like there's maybe a false sense of confidence if you have this fancy model with 5 letters that you have to remember all the time, and it still doesn't capture essentials, like censorship resistance. I don't know. That's maybe not a helpful answer, but
yeah, what's planning?
I don't know. But like, okay, so one example. So there's an even more basic one that's existed for longer, which is CIA, which is it's more primitive, but it's the same sort of area of things. It's essentially confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and I don't know. It's just all these models, right? And it's just a simple one, and their availability maybe with its censorship a little bit. That's not the solution, right? It's just, I guess what I'm looking for is not having false confidence when it doesn't capture key things that we're about. It's not a helpful answer, but that's how I think about it. Right?
Unless you're proved by a real world, you can't have it. Unless, or you prove it by math, like crypto, like algorithms, or you, or formally verified.
Oh, no,
otherwise,
yeah, of course.
The world, otherwise, I mean, you can't be sure that your app is like secure.
No,
I don't think anyone is suggesting that this is gospel either. I think it's just a tool that we use to reason.
I kind of like the first page of the threat modeling book starts with the sentence called "All models are wrong, but some are useful."
yeah, of course. But okay, if the core of what we're doing is censorship resistance, for example, like, and that's not in the model, then it's useful. That's like, I guess, the question of course.
What about starting with these different questions, like rather than starting with the easy ones? If we know the model, what about starting with the difficult ones to see how far we can go? Then we have like an answer to say, okay, these kind of these are not bad at all. Because obviously it seems to be a bit skeptical. Which is a fair point.
It's like acronyms and you can't remember what they stand for, and then it's like, But maybe this is something also that would come out of the principle discussion. Because if there are principles and they don't correspond, then that would be, I don't know what that would be, but it would be a pointer to whatever.
So either like, just like, well, you know the tests from the about picking these kind of scenarios. And see how.
I mean, this seems like it would be really good for auditing the system implementation.
Yeah.
And then identifying sort of leakage points and then just sort of.
But we should still keep in mind the goal. Right? So it's just like maybe two-dimensional. The one, because in our environment, in our organization, it's still spoofing, but it's not like center resistance. But we also can think about like how like developers can spoof something or make a denial of services. Like maybe it's just two dimensions of that. We just need to remember not to get except the obvious like I don't know technical stuff there also.
There's some stuff that maybe like the firm itself, like information security goals that they have when it comes to like the roadmap and stuff like that. That would also be inspiration, but maybe it's too general. I mean, I agree it would be useful. It's a way of narrowing down to maybe just.
I would also say that our objective now is not to find the ideal model, even though I agree that eventually we need to find something that maybe is more appropriate for us than Stride. But for how, it is a tool, it's not a solution. So we can start to use it because our objective is to eventually find principles. Like I'm happy to change the objective of today and tomorrow, but if we say we want to find principles, I wouldn't want to get caught up in evaluating different types of models that we can possibly use. Because I think that's the whole thing on its own.
And I think that's also experience will show something here. So, I mean, we'll learn using this tool as well.
Yeah, certainly will. And we'll find things.
Yeah, we'll find like blind spots. Yeah, of course.
So, by show of hands, who wants to join the principles discussion? Okay. Right. Because we would want to stream that session, I suggest that you kind of like stay on this side of the room, and then we can find another place in the corner for everyone who wants to join. Who would bring up the paper probably for everyone who wants to discuss the issues. We can have this start now. Sort of like set ourselves up for the afternoon.
Didn't we discuss the issues before?
Was that maybe with this framework? Oh, with that framework. Yeah.
All right, that's
I don't know, but it's actually there is
we can ask and see because there might be. In theory, yeah. I mean, we can ask them to see if they don't mind.
It was my idea for details. First, when we have this pricing, the one thing that we'll probably like discuss is like what are we building, like from the diagram of the system, and then I want everyone to like spend like 15-20 minutes each by itself to try to use Stride and now try to kind of facilitate that. But then we can discuss because then we can put everything together and discuss and then have a follow-up thing. Maybe somebody will think about something while someone else presents his own idea. So it's,
yeah.
Let's
go. Let's go. Yes.
Jared, regarding the 1.2 thing, I think the main problem is that the App Store doesn't allow naming something beta or even 0.9.
Yeah, well, the bigger question there, I think like we had that sort of pure plug thing, and we did a Stride thing as well. There will be a bunch of things that we need to sort on the sort of security sort of level before we could even start thinking about saying anything that's, or even thinking about distributing the App Store in a production sort of environment. But I mean, I might be alone in that sort of thinking. It seems like the right thing and the just thing, and the rest seems like running with scissors to me. But, and quite disingenuous and abusive actually to our users.
Oh, like if we did have like,
well, I mean, we don't have
for the wallet, for example, and we go with
yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, I mean, having
that's like for people to analyze how did we think about this wallet, and they have nothing. Yeah, whether they're going to use it or not.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I would feel a lot better being at DevCon 4 presenting these kinds of models and saying exactly how they're crap and how we're good and what we're doing to fix them, as opposed to having thousands of people using a bulk version of status that are leaking all of their private conversations all over the place, and then like there's some massive exploit where someone sent some money and then like some hacker has managed to like gather everybody's
you only get one shot.
Wallets, you know? Yeah, you really do. And then our reputation is completely ruined. And then we were finished. Doesn't sound fun to me. So I think like we should be very careful with this stuff and, you know,
yeah, definitely it doesn't sound right to let the App Store dictate what our versioning should be or what we should be doing.
Okay, yeah, we can do this. Yeah. There's another
oh yeah, yes. Because most of the students actually it's because
most of the information in presentations can be found online in some shape The problem is now contextual.
There's a printout of this one students has before the values. I think comes from the marketing side. If I'm not mistaken.
Carl and I also wrote up our own things and pasted the events puzzle. Carl and I also wrote up stuff in the events puzzle channel. And I also pasted some text, automatic text summarizations of the EIP zero shed values survey stuff as it relates to values. So that may be interesting. Are you what's happening now? You guys going upstairs?
Yeah, staying here with the camera. And, yeah, I would suggest we kind of call each other when we feel ready for lunch. So
yeah, it's supposed to be, yeah. Just train the camera. Go backwards.
anyone else wants to join discussing the issues? You're all better with principles. Anything?
Oh, wow. Camera's turned.
Yeah.
Before it was this way, now all of a sudden. Good thing I have Eric.
What?
What's the delay on that? Like I'm still looking down.
On YouTube is like 1 minute or something.
Oh no. To get a face mask.
Like most of us stopped doing that when they were about 5 or 6.
No, I'm back at that stage.
Are we waiting for somebody?
I was just going through the notes from Carl.
Okay.
Yeah, there's stuff I posted, Carl posted, and there's some marketing ones there.
Physically. It's physically, you're gonna have to get it yourself.
Yeah, good question. Do we want to start like a Google Doc or something like that, and then paste it, put it on there, and then we can discuss different points, and then maybe we can distill that down to something we all agree upon, or have comments on what's contested?
Do we want how security focused we want it to be as opposed to general?
I'd say there's a large overlap.
Should we change the camera so it's facing that and then stream that? I think that's what we do.
Yeah. Is this Patrick's picture?
Yep.
How do we get show up on the screen? It's in my. This one?
Yeah. 1 second. Some other sides. Yeah.
I think, I mean, there's stuff that's already been written, right? But like, it'd also be interesting to first get anyone else's ideas and what should be added or removed. Yeah. Who wants to be accountable for writing bring it up there and doing this one? Okay.
Yeah, and you're.
Yeah. Yeah.
One, two, here. You have it. Otherwise, we can start talking to you.
Start timer.
It's toggle.
So the way I imagine this being is that it should be visible, so it's easy to stop when they're being valid.
So we will look at principle and see when we're doing things, see about it, and then actually change something we're doing. Yeah, I think we should get some consensus on what the principles of values are first, for sure. Because how
just mean what type of like the principles they use for advanced when there's a figure where they need something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like for instance, with the Infura, the fact that we're using it, we're not, abiding by some of these principles. And
so, what principle was I still
yeah, I'd like to see the list now. Here, yeah, censorship resistance, for instance.
Yes, that's fine. And then the fact that you're not, I don't know how to phrase it, but that you're not individually verifying things. So you're not it's a trusted third party.
Yeah.
Trusted third parties might be that one, and I can phrase it differently with the positive formulation.
Continuance as well.
So I guess I have some issues with this. Is like where is this saying of Infura? Are we going to be looking at the issues list that we went through this morning and then trying to extract from that?
No.
Otherwise, I'm kind of curious. Like, is there any structural framework in terms of like coming up with Infura to talk about right now? Like, I realize it's a problem, but it doesn't seem clear to me what a progression is from there after we talk about that. Or do we want to think more generally, more top down in terms of like what our principles and values are and what we stand for, and then try and see what violates them from that perspective? I guess what we should have is some kind of something on the screen there that we can all kind of go down the screen. Is it?
Can we start with what call type?
Yeah, I mean, so like there's stuff at call type and above that as well, there's some stuff. And maybe we can go through that and discuss each point. Maybe that's good.
Principles in general are useful to be stressed. Because otherwise they're just not the ideas.
Yeah.
I guess this would be one way of stressing them. But, principle, like you can say lots of things, like when we do something else because of what? Because of, like as a principle to that list, we should have pragmatism. Yeah, that's in the good.
Yeah, and that's it's also one that Ethereum as a community holds as well. Pragmatism.
And it's never been mentioned. It's untested.
No, definitely not.
It's just
yeah, it's true.
But that's also used to escape actually.
So just write that down. Let's put some pragmatism up there, yeah.
And the one spirit.
Yeah, voluntary.
So let's start with open source. Like, what are the limitations of that? Like, we use organizationally, do we only use open source software? And then that's not the case at the moment. So, like, we use Gmail and all these Google Suite products. Are we trying to mitigate that? Or is it only software we produce as an open source license?
And if we're talking about open source, are we also talking about free culture in general? Or are we talking about only code?
I would like it if we use only free software, but the question is, do we have the time to
then to just like pragmatism land?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so that would be the ideal, but then we have to compromise on certain situations.
Well, it's really interesting, like how we go through that decision-making process. Like, and is it really a have to, or is it just something? Is that out of convenience, for example? And is that it's just interesting?
Yeah, it's just like because it significantly accelerates like the speed of development or something like that.
Maybe we can do something similar to what we did for the individual issues in the wall auction, where we say what are the principles that pragmatically we can aim for now. And so it's like we can say in the future we want to use only free software, but right now using some is not going against our principle. It's because it's a principle. It's not a principle yet. It's like a future principle.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we avoid sweep picking and down the road then?
Yeah, there is always this risk, but it's better to keep to reevaluate later, but to have it in mind that it's one of the things we want to do. And for instance, maybe we can say no, we don't use any new closed source software, but at least like there will be no discussion. Like, is it something we decide that it's something we want, and at the same time we are not infringing because we say it's a future principle that we will make sure we follow. We are not infringing it now.
It's out, Pedro.
And also, it's like if we have 50 principles, we will never be able to follow them all at once. And it's always easier to incrementally build.
So okay, so I guess we could if everyone's read this sort of stuff so far, is there anything in this that anyone would like to add? I mean, it's a larger document than what's on the screen now, but is there anything we've missed that anyone wants to include at the moment? Scroll up. Yeah, can you scroll up?
Maybe education.
So I'm a bit confused because to me, the outcome of this might be maybe more around sort of security, like maybe that would be the most useful for this specific context. So maybe that would be principles centered around that. So I'm just looking, for example, at like if you look at something like prior or whatever, they have this sort of these principles or threats they're thinking about. There's like things like metadata surveillance and data attacks and these type of things. And to me, maybe that's something that would be more, those types of general things might be more useful for security. I don't know.
Sure, let's write them down. Like I think it all belongs in like the pile of things, right?
I can just read them out from the threats that they are targeting. So it's metadata surveillance, content surveillance, content filtering, takedown orders, denial of service attacks, and internet blackouts. And you can probably be clustered. Some of them.
What blackouts?
Internet blackouts. And some of them could all fit in with censorship, for example. But they are like different types of principles.
I think this would be valid, and they're probably actually somehow more closer, like more tangible expression to some of these more loftier ideas.
So regarding security, I would add education.
Yeah, the education system should add as well.
One way of encoding this pragmatism is to come up with a sort of preferences rather than absolutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think like this in Python, for example, where we have this end of Python, which gives you a very good framework to evaluate features under. And then you have this. So in this case, if we like open is better than decentralized is better than centralized, and so on and so forth. So
So X is better than Y, and then we react Y to this of us.
And that list will give you generally. That one is a little bit more tricky to security. The security and it's the common app, so it's like it's
better than everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the reasons why this discussion came up, or the idea for this meeting came up, was we kept talking about darkness, how dark we want to be, what compromises can we do, and it wasn't clear, you know, are we allowed to compromise on that, or I mean, technically, it seems like it's going to be impossible to be 100% dark on a mobile device. Correct. So we should have values that express that as well.
So how do we get from this to a Zen of Python instead of this thing? Do we put this into some kind of list and try and classify them the same way we did the issues individually, like this morning? And then do we then go over the most all the pluggish ones first, or the ones we care about the most, and then try and order them that way? Would that be useful? Yeah. So okay, so should we get a similar Excel spreadsheet out? All right, Google Sheet spreadsheet. Yeah. You know.
Shall we get our closed source tool out to
do this thing?
What kind of centralized server or something?
So what's the principle? Like what's the pragmatism that makes that the right call, right? Because the impact is those
multiplayer notepad, right? Implementations is the largest features and
no, but like what's a pragmatic, like that's a pragmatic decision, but why to efficiency. So but a centralized service would be more efficient as well. So what is the difference really if we try to think about it more like that? It's because it's like a one-time thing, or like what is it exactly? What that attributes?
Well, that's using.
Okay.
Instead of an open source tool, we can use our hands. We have fingers, like fingers. We can read.
No, but it's interesting. Like we're all sort of okay with using, right? But that's so. What is that makes that okay, but not in sort of
also like a cultural norm
with
the
organization.
What? It's a norm, like a cultural norm.
Personally,
Do you know how to move a window to another screen on the Ubuntu?
Just drag it across.
Yeah, you find it's one of the 4 points. If you move your pointer, you should be able to find where, what screens are adjacent.
At least in KDE, the screens are side by side, and you just have to drag it across.
Oh. Yeah, I already have a separate workspace.
I got you.
But yeah, that isn't the screen either.
So it's between those two.
Just mirror.
You can right click and
let me know when you have the Google Sheets.
a little bit.
Send.
Chat, wonderful.
Favorites?
Do you want to vote together or should we vote separately again?
I think we should do it almost exactly the same way we just did it.
So put the sheet in the puzzle channel. So we just go through and add your rankings to a comment.
Is that everything?
These are just the principles that.
But always does attack the principle.
No, it's a threat. And that is something. It's different level.
So are we trying to focus only on like security related issues, or should we bring in all of those?
I don't know. I think we should put everything in there just so then we can all say what we all care about, right? And then maybe that gives us some guiding standpoint to then discuss on what is the most cared about things.
Does that not does that make sense to everybody, or is it not useful? Like, to me, it seems very, to me, that seems like a useful starting point, because we're kind of struggling in terms of like how to reason about this. Yeah. Okay. People have formatted it as a separate thing, but I'm thinking like one idea would be to separate out decentralization into one category. I've seen that like it's the architectural, logical, whatever it's political, everyone. Maybe I can just do a system. Could you change it to edit?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the toolbars could be nested as well, like all under institute. You could have subcategories.
Yeah.
You want to edit like cluster them before? Is clustering worth doing at the moment? Not just like row 3 to 8.
I think that, yeah, these don't really fit.
Is it clear what these mean, or should we, that's something you want to go through?
Well, yeah, so that's, I kind of want to make a list and then go through every single one of those, discuss them, summarize like that, and then I wanted to have each of us go through and classify how much we care about each one of these things. I've got a list of about 35, which is close to. Oh, I can't.
You can't do it?
No, I can't. Cool.
What do you do?
I just pasted a list of stuff from the chat channel.
A lot of them. Oh. View only.
Refresh it.
Refresh. Maybe I don't. So I'll remove the watch from the right.
This should all be in order. I just copied a raw from the chat. So.
It's political decentralization.
There's
political is
organization.
Yeah, how many individuals, organizations ultimately control the computer systems made up of? That's something.
There's a duplicate 13 and 26. on the left side. Freedom of speech and freedom to use.
Yeah. What are we doing right now? We're curating it.
No, just leave it.
Is the style sheet the best?
Well, I mean, if we have like a list, is what we're trying to get at. Right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to take some unstructured data, make it slightly structured. If anyone wants to add anything that isn't there, they should totally do so. You know, education and some of the more direct security things is great. You know, and it's okay if there's duplicates. We can cluster and deduplicate after, so let's not worry about that too much. So I think it's more or less kind of there-ish, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to go down these and kind of discuss what we're trying to mean by them, or do we want to, or is it pretty self-evident to most people? Sure.
I think it's a good idea. Just like make sure it really is a museum page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay, fair access. I mean, to me, fair access is basically that, you know, anyone who has access to the internet can access the Ethereum network in some way. So there's no sort of like gatekeeping that's involved with that. You know, maybe in sort of developing countries where like Facebook is delivering the internet, they would be eroding fair access, for example. So
Talk about gatekeeping.
Yeah, I mean, it also gets a little, it's also kind of hard to just like to, okay, so for example, if you need a lot of currency or tokens to get access to something, you know, is that fair? That's a question that's always raised and never really answered.
It's the same as permissionless?
Yeah, it's very similar to permissionless. So they say
more writing, or no? What's the same?
I mean, so like, I mean, you can permission, like if you have some permissions that are involved, then you probably are not having fair access. Yeah, certainly related. Is everyone okay with that sort of general understanding of that? Open source, to me, this is like, at least to me, this is a type of sort of free culture movement. You know, information should be shared. It's really interesting from a software perspective because it can adapt to local markets. For example, this junior WeChat PM that might be joining us, he was trying to get WeChat deployed into South Africa, and they found that they couldn't get people using the chat, but they could get people using the wallet. So they wanted to create just a standalone WeChat wallet that people didn't actually use. But they weren't allowed to do that because it would be very out of the product. Whereas like we're allowed, they would be breaking up the product, so they weren't allowed to do it. And therefore they couldn't try that as an adoption strategy. But it's just this idea of like, once, we made this, but, we want to share it with it, like humans, and then humans can adapt, use it for whatever they want. All this.
But when you say information, open source means that the source should be accessible. So it's open source is really related to software. If you talk about information, it's more transparency.
Yeah.
Open data.
Absolutely.
So, and because we have so many freedom-related things, maybe our definition of we are more into free software than open source software.
Sure, that's fine. That's what we're going to find out, right? Like, do we care about free culture, or do we care about coding?
About economic sustainability?
For status, or it's definitely something we should add. I mean, we have the SMT token, right? So I think we do. Should we move on to the next one?
Yep.
I think we think of these royalties, sort of, why can't we bread? What? Why can't we bread? Pastries, and we're going to be sitting there with lots of tokens.
Right. It's true. It's like we're meritocrats or aristocrats in a very real sense, actually. So we should be very careful what we're doing. Hey, at least we're trying, right? Well, that's a good principle. It could be around sort of working towards having less control, less power, or whatever you're doing to find out enough to. Absolutely. Well, I mean, to me, the decentralization of power is under political decentralization, like someone said before, right? Yeah, maybe it's the same. Or decentralization in general. But maybe we should make it very more explicit. So accessibility, what's that?
Isn't it the same as fair access?
That's how I interpreted it. Does anyone else have any other interpretations?
Well, it can also be related to open source and free software. The fact that it doesn't take 6 months to be able to make a change to understand how the software works and make a change.
So like code reasonability and like the ability to.
So I mean, it's kind of a duty to design the software in a way that changes that it's understandable by a human before being understandable by a machine. Yeah. And I put this one.
It's very small talkish, right?
Small talkish, yeah.
Small talk,
yeah, because one thing that made me put that is I finally got this email from Barbara that she told me a few months ago that a candidate declined to continue the recruitment process because it found that our code was way too. I can show you the email later. There is lots of complaints that he has regarding the code and the fact that for him, code is supposed to be read by humans and accidentally run on computers and not be opposite. And that's like, we are changing it progressively, but there's still a lot of aspects in which our code is quite.
Right. And that's why I was asking about documentation of the code itself yesterday.
But I think documentation is it's the code first. Like if the well, we can discuss that. We don't have to go in length, but
I get your point. I mean, the code should be a lot more simpler and easier to read.
Yeah, it's like there should be. It's I think the DDD movement, like when they try to identify the business or the data that we are manipulating for in a given software. Well, anyway.
This is not just of the code base, it's also the documentation we produce, like in Discuss. Try not to use, you know, not embed you should embed some context into the discussion, not just assume that people know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you should have some level of, like, for instance, you can have different way of writing documentation and blog posts for different, like you have first-time users that will have no vocabulary around blockchain, so you need to progressively. So it's like your content is kind of like a tree where the easiest documents are on top, anybody can read them, and once you have read this one, you will understand slowly. So we should kind of have this in mind, how to access this world of blockchain.
So that's kind of clear what we mean by accessibility then?
Yeah. So I would say it's related to the education as well.
Right, it is related to education. So right of use, what does that mean?
I think it's about the same as fair access. It's like everyone has the right to use the software.
I added some from at the bottom, which are similar to what we talked about, which are directly from sort of the Creative Commons thing, which is around sort of remix culture and cultural works. So openness, I think that some overlap, but for they also distinguish them. It's like public domain open remix.
I guess like I find it interesting as a side comment, the right of use, it implies some kind of permission. And it's like who's giving that permission or that right to do.
Maybe that's what I was thinking from.
Can we remove the ones that are synonyms?
Yeah, we can deview, I think maybe after. Yeah. You want to do it now?
Maybe I think we should. Yeah, I think we should categorize, like, for instance, we should have like put the term that englobe the rest as like some kind of
I guess graph. Yeah, I mean, the graph would be very helpful. I guess the reason why I'm not so concerned about degrouping right now is there may be some subtleties there, and like they should naturally cluster if we all think of the same thing after ranking them, and then we can kind of collate them at that point. At this point, like I think we should just try and go through and like get a very quick definition of all. Is that okay?
Fair enough. Yeah. I think that this one is pretty obvious, censorship resistance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's related to coercion,
avoiding the suppression
of
information.
Yeah, freedom of expression. Yeah, transparency and symmetry. I assume that's information symmetry. Kind of close to accessibility, right? Like we want everything to be open, and it's part of. I would say it's part of free culture as well.
Maybe we target was more elastic than these kinds of things.
Sorry, was what? Target was
like more like not having information symmetry, right? Like where pricing sort of things are.
Yeah, like internal versus external is an information asymmetry, right? Yeah. So like we want to try and eradicate that as well. Eradicate is too strong a word, but minimize that. Well, I don't know if you want to or not. That's what it means.
Kind of like the opposite of organizational privacy.
Yeah. Yeah. Security first. What does that mean to us? Is security first to what? Usability? Convenience? Maybe.
Yeah, that's like the discussion for the revolution mode, you know, because if you impose the revolution mode on everyone, it might be really bad for usability.
Might be, yeah.
But on the other hand, if you want to reach the other values, you probably need to have something like that.
Yeah. So, it's a good question. agnosticism and cooperation.
I guess we could be agnostic to specific dApps, like letting users create dApps rather than us making them for users. And then we could also be agnostic to new technologies, like you see a lot of like tribalism within cryptocurrency communities. That's not desirable.
Yeah. Does this also include apoliticism? Or is that maybe a separate thing?
What I mean,
like, how are we going to be agnostic to?
Yeah, if you do that, for instance.
Like that principle.
No, yeah.
For instance, open source is more agnostic than free software.
Right. Exactly. That's expressed in our licensing as well, right?
Which is?
For status React, it's MPL2, and then for most other things, it's Apache 2 and MIT dual license.
For status, it's React, it's
MPL, Mozilla Public License 2, so it's GPL compatible, but it also allows you to add sort of binaries or closed libraries as long as the interfaces to them are open source or open. And the reason they do that is for things like primary nodes, the video decoding and stuff like that. We may need something like that in the future. Exactly. Whereas something like GPL is a little too restrictive and also causes problems with the app stores.
The app store problem.
Oh, So, okay, so continuance. This is of the organization or continuance of what we're doing, regardless.
Is that the organization like ideally without our participation?
Yeah.
Is it the same as sustainability, or is it
the same as well?
Sustainability.
Self-sustainability of the product, of the
network
platform.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
I think so.
Yes. Yeah. It's like it should continue to operate regardless of
what happens to status.
Yeah. Pragmatism, life happens. Sometimes we need to make some kind of concessions, right? Is that fine with everybody?
Yeah.
Voluntarism, it's probably a little more. Basically, you should be allowed to do what you want to a certain extent.
Does it apply more to the organization or to users?
I think it's the individual. So this idea that nobody can kind of coerce you or enforce you to do something. You should be able to do it
voluntarily.
Voluntarily, yeah. With your permission, your consent. Coercion resistance. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's like the actors are having to comply with.
Yeah. Honesty. I guess this is kind of similar to transparency and information symmetry.
Honesty implies trust. Honesty implies trust.
Right.
There's. I once saw an interesting distinction between being frank and being honest.
Okay.
Because you can be honest without being frank. Frank means that if you know something, you'll be straight. So you will tell the other person that this. I know that this is wrong. Whereas if you're being honest, you can omit that and you haven't committed any fault. So it's important to also to decide how we want to be.
Yeah.
If we know something is wrong, are we frank about it?
Let's throw it in there. Done. Frank. In the bottom now.
Yeah. According to Quora. The difference is that honesty is what you feel. When you reveal the truth, you feel needs to be known, and transparency is when others can see for themselves the truth and feel they need to know. But then, like, yeah, so transparency is just you say everything, and then people figure out by themselves what needs to be known.
So you say everything is available to verify.
I think there's trustlessness on there somewhere. Freedom. We have a lot of freedom stuff coming up.
Yeah, that's why I put freedom, because then, yeah, there is 7 different freedoms.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do that later.
It's a cluster.
Sorry.
Individual liberty.
As opposed to some form of collectivism, or was it's like to maximize available choice?
Yeah. Is it the same or different from like individualists and more like how does it relate to collectivism?
Yeah, because maybe the individual wants to.
Well, they have the liberty to be the collectivists. It's compatible. Yeah. Free speech and freedom of expression. That's like, to me, is like upholding their ability to be able to communicate.
It's the same. How do we deal with people who use free speech to reduce the free speech or violence?
I mean, I don't think we should. I think we should provide the tools, but I don't think that we should be solving any sort of social problems like that. Yeah, I think as far as that goes, it's like if you don't want to be dealing with somebody on the internet, then like you can mute them yourself or block them yourself.
And that's why I think one of it also intersects with education, because we should really like explain to people that it's important to stay anonymous, because one of the ways you can use your free speech to limit the free speech of others is by attacking them personally. And if you reveal your real identity, you are much more easy to target for that kind of thing.
Definitely.
So
it's like removing fear of retaliation.
And that's why I'm thinking more and more like this constitution we were talking about. Maybe, like, I think whatever we call it, it seems like it's the kind of document. Like if there was only one document, we would ask any status user to read this one, and I would, instead of vague principle or things like this, I would really put the things that we consider super important. And for instance, one of them is do not like always be careful about your anonymity, because that's like one of these things. Once you lost it, you can never get it back. And then you have the coercion. About coercion, you have the canary. Like maybe we will give people a bunch of ways to check that we are still being honest or transparent or whatever by checking if you. So I think that that would be much more efficient to have people to educate people on this thing that's being putting big words like freedom of speech or whatever.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with that. Like, I mean, I think like pseudo-anonymity is on here because it's very related to that. And I think that we should get this sorted because we don't have this sorted, and then we can like come up with some very explicit expressions of what that means or why that's important to people. But it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. Freedom of thought, belief, and religion. This is a human rights act thing. Very similar to
criticism.
Yeah.
It's basically limited
Yeah.
as a part of the thing.
Yeah. That's true. And it'll be probably what we have as well. And yeah, I mean, it's close to free speech, but I think it's a little bit different, right? Because like, we want to make it'd be nice to have no distortions of thought.
Sorry, guys. You go.
I mean, it's very easy to introduce distortions of thought. So how this applies to status is like it's like a client, but it's a window onto Ethereum or the web, and we should have a responsibility not to make sure that glass is as clean as possible and not impose something on there that may be altering that. I mean, we are going to be to a certain extent, but I mean, we're trying to maximize individual liberty, at least as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. So I realize there's somewhat of a hypocritical statement to say freedom of thought, but then we're trying to do things that maybe, well, they ensure some kind of freedom of thought, but that may be considered as distortions to thought itself. Sure.
So individual liberty is freedom of choice? Or...
You can make a weaker claim about that if you're not preventing the opposite.
Right.
What we're doing, we're giving X more, to less.
Yeah.
It's not absolute, but
it's a step in the right direction.
No, but like it's not limiting anybody.
Right.
Not doing harm is.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, there's some constructionist approach that you can get in conversations with people where they'll bring this down to the point where it gets cyclical. And I mean, it's not a reducible argument, but it does. It can evolve.
I'm wondering if the more is.
So I mean, like freedom of assembly and association, that's just like a right to be able to associate with different whoever you want. And it's kind of interesting because it did come up in our previous issues, where it's like media is being used for terrorism, right? And it's like, okay, are we going to offer the freedom of association to associate other terrorists? And I mean, like, for me, that seems like it's a more uplist social stack. So we should not try to concern ourselves with it too much, but I know there's available.
I think that ties into the lack of control. Like, if we have the means of controlling how people associate with each other, then we're just anything wrong.
Exactly.
So it's not that we are pro or con any individuals. It's just that we don't want to have that power.
You're basically like a utility, like the water company is not going to provide water to everyone except the terrorists.
Right. Yeah. Well, like it's
stupid.
You should write whatever you want.
I really think we should avoid using the word terrorist because it's already quite misused for political
yeah, no, absolutely. Like, there's no point in making us a walking target, and our communications should not be focused on that. Yeah. But it didn't come up today, right? So I think it's the first time.
We do not talk about the horsemen of
today.
Oh, and just in the issues list, the wall of shame, there was like this freedom, this association thing, but in a negative context. Okay, so free culture and openness. It's maybe adding more rights to. You can imagine adding more rights to open source and enforcing free culture. It's maybe a way of thinking about it. You know, content and information being free to use in any way, shape, or form. That's how I view that. I don't know, people. I feel like I'm imposing everything.
No, but I mean, free content, it's also like the second license thing. Kind of.
Yeah,
like that's what, yeah. So it's part of the CC. Yeah, the license usually said that's only the reality. It's a matter of embodying. So when we post stuff that is something that public domain or whatever.
I guess this will be put on its
edge if we had like a hardcore fascist working for us and making those views known through our platforms.
Right. Well, that's what I definitely don't want that.
Well, but
yeah. Yeah.
I'm just kind of hoping that it won't happen.
Right. Exactly.
Do you feel like do we get different tools versus sort of like to the organization and those? Right? So might that be two different things? Like the tools we're building and sort of what the organization is endorsing or aiming for and these kind of things? Do you think those are two different things?
I mean, and also the term fascist or Nazi, like nowadays it's thrown so easily, you know, the same way some people have been fired from Mozilla because they had views that were too far away from the political correctness that was required by HR. That's the example of it. Okay.
And we're hoping it won't happen, so we won't have to deal with that mess. So kind of it's saying all these lots of things.
You could imagine like freedom of speech applies to anyone using the software, but within the organization there's like a certain code of conduct you have to apply to. Like you don't have full freedom of speech by being a core contributor. I mean, you probably wouldn't still be a core contributor, right? Like if you were a terrorist or a Nazi on the team.
Yeah, that's a distinction that might be worth making explicit. Mm-hmm. There's one thing about the system that we're building, and another thing about our own little slice of it.
Mm-hmm. It is a bit what we by our own laws. So what is a bit? So one thing is like money flows, right? Like compensation. Another thing is the core contributor, which is like a privilege, like the abstraction we have right now. But you can also imagine that if compensation was completely decentralized, anyone could fund anyone, then that wouldn't be under control anymore. And the same if that was the case in terms of voting, which person gets to use. So in that sense, the distinction would, for a long time, and would also be fluid. I know what that would mean because
but even the voting can get us into.
So I wonder if that's not more of a cultural norm among the participants right now.
Yeah, but like something like the voting, people buying votes and so on, range from us, the organization to promote, concentration camps. Right. And that's where voting leads, if it's profitable as well.
Mm-hmm. Even without corruption.
Should we try to finish the list? Because
we should try to finish the list, yeah. We've got quite a few to go through still. All right, so I mean, where are we?
We just talked about, I don't really have a good synopsis of free culture.
Yeah. So this is like, okay. Do we just want to go down the list and see if it like raises any questions to ones we don't hear about, maybe?
Yeah.
Great. How does freedom of movement apply to status?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe it doesn't.
Because it seems like the ways we could influence that are already comprised on other things like freedom to communicate and transact.
Absolutely. I mean, that could be considered movement, right?
Yeah.
I guess another thing there is that like freedom of movement kind of like implies removing trade barriers to a certain extent, which tends to create more economic prosperity.
Could you imagine that you have one versus that would be different depending on the geographical entity. That's probably something we don't want, but that's how it apply. Where if you are living in some country that has more secret laws or whatever, that should prevent them from using whatever that there's no sort of geographical licensing. So that would imply opening up APKs and working on side loading and these kinds of maybe.
Is inclusivity similar to fair access, social inclusion, and collaboration?
I don't think so. I think inclusivity is much more active. So it's like, okay, now we have all this fair access stuff, but it's really up to you to come up with it. And we should be trying, or I don't know if we should be, but I would suggest that we should try and bring people. Yeah, encourage participation. Because that's how we grow the network. That's how we grow the organization.
We've gone over 20 of the 60 items that we have on
There's 60? Well, so basically the node was to go, is there anything that we're unclear about in those current things? Just to talk about that.
So to take 3 seconds and 5 seconds and see, but anyone can raise their hand. So where are we now? We are. Where are we right now?
So
is anyone unclear on the different forms of decentralization?
Modular decentralization?
So that would be,
I think we should do it because
it closes at 2 o'clock.
Close at 2 and we won't get it done.
So okay, so one example is
I thought it was the end of the list.
If you have a system and you cut it in half, both providers and users, will they both sort of continue to operate as independent units? I guess it's an interesting example because it's not blockchains are not logically centralized, for example, but languages. So you can take half of language, but it will still be useful. But if you take half a blockchain, you don't have anything.
Nothing in this room?
Do we have anyone with keys here?
That's probably not a good idea.
They might have gone for.
So we stop sharing.